Star, Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Under 30 seconds to play now. Crawford goes to the bench again. And Rene takes a long elevated shot, bouncing, and he scores! Pekka Rene scores into the empty net. Predators with a 5-2 lead. Pekka Rene becomes the second Predators goaltender in team history to score a goal.
Nashville Predators legend, number 35, Pekka Rene!
There it is, Pekka Rene, notable Predators offensive legend.
Goal scorer, Pekka Rene. You can never take that from him.
You cannot, and something you cannot take from him anymore is his number. Pekka Rene's jersey being hoisted into the rafters of Bridgestone Arena last night. 35 will officially hang in the rafters for the foreseeable, for the future. Another thing that they announced last night was that Pekka Rene's statue will be erected in front of Bridgestone Arena as well. And that started a big discussion. I was watching the ceremony with a certain someone who is not here to defend themselves, so I will not name them.
It's the perfect time to talk about him.
Yeah. And he just scoffed when the statue came out. And I said, what? What is your beef with Pekka Rene getting a statue? He said, well, if the Predators would have won 2 more games in 2017, then I would think that that's deserving of a statue. And I would like to establish that I live in the camp that having a statue means something. Mm-hmm. You have to have brought a team so much success. You have to transcend time. You have to, have jerseys, and it doesn't matter what year it is, whether you're playing now or if it's 20, 30, 50, 100 years in the future. People will know your name and will wear your jerseys and will celebrate you for being an absolute legend for that team. I don't take a jersey retirement or a statue very lightly. And I usually live in the camp of, if you didn't bring a trophy or a championship home, then, I don't think that you can necessarily be deserving of a statue. And that was the conversation surrounding Pekka, was, Pekka Rene is erecting a statue. Is it necessarily deserving? Is it worthy of a statue? I heard Joe Rexrod ask the question this morning, is every player who gets their number retired going to get a statue? It's a fair question. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's a bit dramatic. But I think that in this instance, this is my exception. Because I said you have to do something remarkable. You have to do something amazing. Pekka Rene did not bring a championship back to Nashville. They got very close, but they did not bring the Stanley Cup back to Nashville. But I'm going to break my rule here, because you have to do something remarkable. You have to do something amazing. That's exactly what Pekka Rene did. Yeah. I mean, Pekka put the Nashville Predators on the map. Who knows if this team would still be in Nashville if Pekka Rene was not the goalie for the Nashville Predators, if Pekka Rene was not here, if he didn't bring this team so much success and so much excitement. Nobody in Nashville, and I say nobody, I mean a majority of Nashvillians probably did not give one single care about the game of hockey in 1998. Nobody cared. The Predators weren't very good. And then Pekka comes in, and it's like he was the catalyst to the game of hockey growing. It's like he was, those little defibrillator things, cha-choom, put life, breathe life into the sport, into this city, and he made this sport relevant. So did he bring a championship back to Nashville? No. Is that normally my criteria for a statue? He will be in front of Bridgestone Arena forever. A lot of people may say, well, isn't a jersey retirement enough? He's absolutely deserving of a jersey retirement. A statue, honestly, I break my rule here. Because this is a new team, this is a young team, and this is a team that had to go through a lot of hardships to get where it wanted to be. The Predators are not just relevant, but they thrive in Nashville. Yeah. The Predators aren't just the Predators aren't just a little brother team anymore. The Predators are a big time team in the NHL. And I understand the mentality of you're just gonna put up a statue and a banner for everybody. It might feel like that little brother mentality. The Nashville Predators aren't. Nashville is not a small city. The Predators are not a small team. And so you don't want to think small anymore. And maybe people are thinking, you put a statue of Pekka that feels like it's very small thinking. Mm-hmm. But this team could still be small if it weren't for Pekka Rene and his successes.
Well, yeah, the 2017 run alone, I mean, was so big in terms of introducing new fans to it. I mean, I guess if you'd have told me when I was like 11, 12 years old that eventually, because like the Preds were still good, but they weren't going to the Stanley Cup final, that Broadway would be packed shoulder to shoulder. There is zero personal space on Broadway for games 3, 4, and what was it, 6 on those viewing parties outside. Where you say they have viewing parties that rival anything else, in the sporting world, and if you showed me those images, it'd been hard for me to believe. Like the way, like the Preds have always had a foundation of really good lifelong fans. The Cell Block 303, the people that are in Bridgestone every game, or a lot of those that have been going since the late 90s when the team became a thing. And even when they had some rough patches in the early 2000s, they've consistently kept coming. But like Pekka Rinne, like that season fueled what became a run that no one in this town is ever going to forget. I think that run alone made the Predators, I guess, what they are now, especially when it comes to being respected nationally. Mm-hmm. Like the All-Star game coming here was nice, and that was a fun time in the city. Yeah, it was massive. But like, I guess the town got the hockey town, quote unquote, I'm using this in air quotes because I don't necessarily like using the term hockey town or not, but it kind of earned that with the Stanley Cup final, and that run was fueled by some of the better performances you've ever seen, like games 1 and 2, shutting out the Chicago Blackhawks, the 1 seed in the conference, on the road. Like those kind of moments right there, and putting this franchise to where it is right now. Pekka Rinne had a huge thing to do with that. I think that's statue worthy. I don't necessarily know, like, I've never come to like parameters of what I think is statue worthy or not, but like doing something other than just a banner hanging of his jersey is a pretty cool gesture.
And I think when it comes with a statue, it's like the same thing with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jared and I always say, if you have to question it, maybe they don't belong in the Hall of Fame.
Which is a fair criteria.
When you think about Peyton Manning, Hall of Fame. Tom Brady,
no-brainer.
Hall of Fame. Those are no-brainers.
Yeah.
I think it's the kind of thing with a statue. It's like, they're not going to erect a statue of Philip Forsberg at the end of the season. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But when you think about Pekka Rinne and the impact that he made on the city, I think it's pretty deserving.
I don't think, like, if you took a poll, I don't think it would be less than 80% yeses. Like, of all Nashville sports fans, not just Preds fans, like Preds fans, Titan fans, or casual sports fans in the town that don't necessarily cheer for the team in town. Like, I think it's one of those. Like, if that's like the test that we're applying to this, I feel like that works for Pekka because he is the most recognizable Predator in the franchise history. Franchise has been around for 20 plus years. Like, if you did this for the Seattle Kraken, like, yeah, their most recognizable player, like, they haven't done anything. They haven't even completed a season. So, like, they've been around for 20 plus years.
Put up a Kalle Yarncroke statue over there in
Seattle, yes. Yeah. Or Jonas Donskoy statue. Or a statue of Sean Kemp trying to say Jonas Donskoy's name, which might be the best part of their franchise's history so far. Might be the funniest thing I've ever heard. I'm also very pro statue, or even a bust, even something small. Like, we need like more celebratory things. The more you can make your stadium even a little bit of a museum of your team's history, I'm all in favor for too. So I'm a lot more lenient in that response.
Are you pro Pekka statue?
I'd be a pro Nash statue.
A Nash statue? I don't know if I'm there.
I mean, a little bit like he earns his respect too. But like, I'm definitely pro Pekka statue, and like just the more cool stuff like that you can put in a concourse in front of the arena. All I ask is that the Pekka statue is of his goal, where he's jumping up and down and stuff. That would be pretty sweet. That is my only request. I do wonder if the Predators feel that they've set a precedent in terms of, jersey retirement, or in terms of, I guess memorializing, and I don't. Yeah. That's not the right word because Pekka's not dead. But like, I don't know the right word for that. True. But I don't know if the Predators felt like they set a certain precedent, because I don't think that they want to do that, because measuring the impact of a certain player, I don't think is necessarily fair. I think with Pekka, it's absolutely felt, and it was felt even before he even retired. I don't think that you necessarily need to stand the test of time in terms of Pekka Rinne's impact, but I do wonder if they felt like they set a certain precedent, because Sean Henry was on the morning show today, and he said, we don't feel like we've written a certain criteria, and I do think that they could operate under the, does he belong up there? Should his jersey be retired? And if it's a definite yes, then it's a yes, and you have to think about it, then it's a no. But I do wonder if the Nashville Predators have set a precedent moving forward of how they will remember players who have played some sort of impact in the team. Yeah, and that's a good point too. And like, if you want to use Pekka as like the ultimate precedent, like he won a major award. He was on a team that went to the Stanley Cup final and was the best player on the team that went to the Stanley Cup final. As top 20 in 2 very important categories as a goalie, wins and shutouts. I would say that's pretty significant. And so if you want to put like parameters around it, that's a good way too. And then of course a lot of the off-ice stuff. Like if you want to put like I guess steady parameters on how the Predators should do this from here on out in terms of jersey retirements, because no one wants to be the Boston Celtics too. No one wants to have all of the numbers available retired, and players are out there wearing wonky numbers. So
yeah. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll continue to take your thoughts throughout the show. But also, let us not forget that there was a game after the jersey retirement ceremony. Predators winning in a shootout, defeating the Dallas Stars 2-1. We'll break down that game coming up next. Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell, you are listening to Stillman & Company. We are live from the Hillside Medical Games studio. We are live on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
I love Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey because it goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There is no better way to ignite your night than with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. I absolutely love it. And knowing that there's a big hockey game tomorrow and I will be there, you are going to have to keep yourself warm, and no better way to light up your experience than with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. It goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. It is a true cinnamon whiskey, so enjoy the game and enjoy your weekend with Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey.
This is Colton Sissons, and this is Smashville.
Feeds now, Sissons coming on from the left circle, and Colton Sissons puts it in the net.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution, and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Hey guys, it's Mike from Newton Ford. Can you feel that? Love is in the air. Maybe it's love for your significant other. Maybe it's love for Rome, your Bernese mountain dog. Maybe it's just love for chocolate. Wherever that love falls, this is the time to take it all in. But maybe take less of the chocolate in. So now that all the mushy stuff is out of the way, I'm going to tell you what we love. We love to help you. We love helping you find a new car when you need one. We love helping you keep your car running smooth with amazing service. We love partnering with you in the community to make a positive impact. Newton loves to help. We have a great selection of pre-loved vehicles on the lot for you right now. You can shop online and even start working your deal right now from your phone with Newton FastPass. Visit newtonford.com to shop or schedule service today. For the love of chocolate, see website for details.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I'm excited to tell you about the folks at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Spring is just around the corner, and if your AC or heating unit is old and inefficient, then you need to take advantage of the Spring Hill Early Spring Special in the month of February. Save up to $1,000 for Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Get a York unit with a 10-year parts and labor warranty with up to 60 months no-interest financing on all York units. Restrictions do apply. Schedule now at springhillac.com. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York-certified comfort expert company.
Music City. Start a profitable new chapter of your life and be your own boss with your very own Little Guys Movers franchise. In fact, no matter where you are, from Green Hills to the Gulch to down in Franklin, if you can hear my voice, there's an affordable, profitable Little Guys franchise opportunity nearby. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Join a team with 30-plus years of growth and good times. Learn more at littleguysfranchise.com. That's littleguysfranchise.com. And then make that call.
Saturday.
Pippen moving right to left, weaves his way in, lays it home. Nicely done.
The Commodores of Vanderbilt hit the road to take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Coverage begins at 11:30 on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey Nashville, this is David Poyle. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Gronlund is 1 of 1 for the Predators this season. Comes in with pace, left side, back in to score! gives the Predators a one-score lead, and now Dallas has to score or it's over in a Predators victory.
Well, he brought it to the backhand, and instead of trying to get it by the pad, he slid it in between the pads. 5-hole.
And now we have an unknown, Jacob Peterson. He is 1 of 1 this year, however, for Dallas. Left-hand shot, moves in through the right side, and Saros makes the stop, and the Predators have a 2-1 win as they empty the bench to celebrate.
Juice. It's fitting that on Pecorine night.
Fitting on Pecorine night, and what a night for Finland. You got a Finns jersey going up in the rafters. Mm-hmm. You got a Finnish goalie who played his absolute mind out last night.
Saved the game on multiple occasions.
Multiple occasions, and that is nothing new. And Mikael Granlund scoring the game-winning goal, another Finn. So good night for Finland.
If you want to rank winners of last night, I think it's fair to say the country of Finland was definitely a big winner. Pekka's the obvious winner, whatever. But, like, the country of Finland, definitely a big winner last night.
Dallas even has a pretty good Finn. That Rope Hintz.
Yeah.
Rope Hintz can play.
He can play.
They lost, but he's a Finn.
But still, as long as they had fun.
Saros robbed him early in the game, too. Some Finn-on-Finn crime.
That is very true.
I mean, there was a lot of finning.
Other than the finning last night, I think my biggest takeaway from the Preds win last night was that I'll take a page out of Mike Vrabel's playbook. It wasn't pretty, but it was beautiful. Like, that game last night was not pretty. Like, if the Predators play last night like they did last night against Tampa Bay, they're going to get their butts whooped. But I don't really care. I don't care. As long as the Predators got a win last night, continue that momentum going into the Stadium Series game, get a win on Pekarine's night. Because can you imagine the gray cloud that would just be over their heads? You know, losing a barn burner to Dallas, especially when Dallas was coming off of kind of a barn burner game the night before. So that's a tough stretch for Dallas. I thought the Preds were going to go in last night and absolutely clobber the Dallas Stars. I thought they were going to have nothing left in the tank, but that is not how it happened. But I don't care how it went. As long as they got a win, they need those points. I mean, it's crunch time in this season. You need as many points as you can possibly get. So I didn't care. I didn't care how it happened.
Just get a win.
Get a win on Pecorine night. Keep the momentum moving into the Stadium Series game. I'm fine with it. But with that being said, the power play last night,
atrocious.
The offense last night,
shades of a few years ago,
not great. I do have to say, it was a defensive night last night. I think the defense played their butts off. I think Colton Sissons had an absolutely lights-out game. And I think that UC Saros, I feel like we could give him so much credit, and it still wouldn't be deserving of what he's done so far this season. Because UC Saros played his absolute mind out last night.
It's funny because that's what Pekka used to do for so many teams. I mean, like, the offense wouldn't show up a lot, especially on the Barry Trotz teams where they weren't offensive-oriented. But if you had a great goalie and you had a great defense in front of you, you're going to win a lot of rock fights. And that's what last night was, a total rock fight. And if you have a goalie like UC Saros, which Pecorine even said in the retirement speech that Smashville's in good hands when it comes to the player in between the pipes. And that's exactly what happened last night. It was funny because it was shades of a classic Pecorine Preds win where the goalie plays out of his mind, gets a save in the shootout or gets some saves early on in the game. The other team having 4 power plays and creating some shots on those power plays and just not being able to get anything going because of good defensive performances and good play in net is so classic Preds, especially in like mid-2000s Preds, that it kind of hurts. But it was great. It was great to watch. And it was probably the most fitting way to end it, even though I'm kind of like you, though. I expected them to just absolutely wear Dallas out, considering Dallas's travel conditions, playing on a back-to-back. Like, I don't think Dallas got into town until much later than expected, and I thought they'd be tired. But I think also, too, there's the other side of it is maybe Nashville was just more emotionally tired because of that ceremony being as long as it was, Pekka being back. So I think that kind of played into it, but
I'm not taking that as an excuse, though. I mean, use that as motivation. Use that as fuel. And I'm with you in that. I fully expect the Predators to go in there and just, kick Dallas where it hurts.
Yep.
Because Nashville's coming off of a huge win against one of the best teams in the NHL on the road. Dallas was coming in I guess not a long road trip, but a road trip nonetheless, overnight, playing back-to-back nights. But I think that just kind of attributes how inconsistent this team has been. I mean, the one consistency this team has had has been elite goaltending. But it's almost like every single night, I don't know what Predators team is going to show up. Are you going to see Johansson, Duchesne, and Forsberg just play out of their minds and it's, just an offensive shootout? Or is it going to be an absolute snooze fest where the Predators can't even get a good look? And it's really kind of frustrating that it's, game in and game out. You don't necessarily know which Predators team you're going to see. So that was a little bit frustrating to see last night in a game where the Predators had all of the advantages in their favor. A home game. I mean, you retired a jersey for the first time in your franchise's history.
Raucous crowd.
This could be the biggest week in franchise history, which I want to get to later on in the show. I mean, all of the advantages are in the Predators' favor. I mean, Bridgestone was more packed than it had ever been last night. Yet they couldn't get things moving. They couldn't get things moving on offense. Defense was fine. The penalty kill did their job.
Did their job pretty well.
But it was frustrating to see, and it continues to be frustrating for me, that I just don't know what Predators team is going to show up. It's incredibly inconsistent.
That's the trickiest part about an 82-game season, too, is you do have weeks like this week where you have a Tuesday where you play Florida, and you're able to score that many. You're winning a shootout, with your backup goalie. Against a team that is playing better offensively than almost any team in the league, and then you end up winning a rock fight. I am slightly encouraged, though, because they're able to win both styles. It's not, you see in sports, in a lot of different sports, whether it be football, basketball, hockey, baseball, that if there's a team that really only wins one way, their blueprint, they play to their blueprint, and if it doesn't go according to plan, they're probably SOL, and they're probably dropping the game.
And there are people that argue that about Florida.
Yeah.
That they play, and the styles that Florida and Dallas play. I mean, when you play Dallas, this is the type of game you play. They play tough, slow, clog it up, physical game. Yeah. Florida,
Dallas is always a physical game.
They play up and down, and there's people who argue that until Florida can prove that they can win 2-1 games, 3-2 games.
Because those are playoff games.
Consistent games. Because when it gets to the playoffs, you're not going to be scoring. It's not going to be 6-5. It's not going to be 6-4. Very rarely. Yeah. So
that's a good point.
I think that the Preds are able to win both styles is a good thing. They've been able to do, adjust to kind of how the other team plays. And I don't know. So there's something about Dallas games. The teams are so familiar with each other that it's just not a very high scoring. They're just not high scoring affairs, and they're always close.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too. It's like in the playoffs, you're going to have to win a lot of rock fights, especially when the other team has a red hot goalie.
They don't call the penalties, like they do in the regular season.
Right, especially with such a physical team like Dallas. But I think one thing I noticed last night, and one thing that I've noticed throughout the season, is that if the Predators are digging themselves in a hole, or if they have a period where momentum kind of seems to stop a little bit, they can pick themselves back up. I mean, I look at that Florida game. They were down 3-1, were able to dig themselves out of that hole. And then once they were able to do that, I never felt like the Predators were scratching and clawing to try and stay above water. I felt like the Predators were very much so in that game against Florida. And I look at that game last night, and the second period, the Predators did not play their best hockey. It was kind of slow.
It was not aesthetically pleasing.
It was not a cute game to watch by any means. But they weren't out of the game. So I think that's another thing that you can kind of attribute to the Predators is that you can't really count them out if you see them start to take a little bit of a step back, because they can find their way back and they will scratch and claw their way back.
And in a week like this too, because you mentioned it, the Panthers test is such a different test than what the Dallas test is, because like Ian mentioned and laid out really well, they're two completely different teams in terms of play style. And then you have this game sandwiched in between, or at the end of it being the Stadium Series game, which is a whole other type of emotional roller coaster against the back-to-back Stanley Cup winning Tampa Bay Lightning. There's a lot of maybe a little bit of a look ahead too, even though you couldn't in this game because the Stars are vastly approaching them in the standings because the Stars are playing really good hockey.
Stars are knocking on their door. And that's another reason why that win last night was so critical. I mean, Dallas is knocking on the Predators' door in the standings for that fourth place spot.
Dallas keeps finding ways to get their games to overtime.
They do. And they point stack.
Even
so
the
hard.
game before, it was Winnipeg, the game they were coming off back-to-back, scored late, tied it to go to overtime, boom, scored in overtime, get the extra point. So, I don't know. Dallas I can't get a good read on Dallas as a team.
Teams that do that, are hard.
They're a strange team as far as they're somewhat top-heavy, and they're on who they really rely on to score. Their depth scoring, I don't think, is as good as the Preds, but their top scoring of Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski, and Klingberg those guys are just really pretty clicking.
Good mix of old guys and young guys, too. Like, Haskinen's a stud. Younger guy, Robertson. I mean, I think it's his second year in the league. The guy scored the goal last night. Really good player. And then Joe Pavelski, it feels like he's been around for 30 years. Like, I feel like Joe Pavelski's played every year I've watched, NHL hockey. Like, this guy has been around forever and is still just a master at deflecting pucks in front of the net. So, like, the Stars can get you in a lot of different ways, too. But I'm like you, though, Caroline, where it's like, just win the damn game at the end of the day. Because, like, you need those points. Mm-hmm. You need to create some more distance between you and Dallas. In the game Saturday, not only is it a visual spectacle, you're playing the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Right. And it's crunch time right now, and the Predators have the fewest remaining games in the Central Division. So as Crispy said, you got those points in the bank, and you got to make sure that you get your job done, because once you're done, other teams are still playing, and other teams can still collect points. So I think that's a very key part here too, is, you got to pick up those points where you can, especially 100%. When it's crunch time, and especially when we're so close to the playoffs, and especially when Dallas, whenever that margin is getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, I see your texts and your calls piling up. We will get to those coming up next. But also, where would this Predators team be without a goaltender saving their butts all the time? We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell, you're listening to Stillman and Company. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now, and they have same-day delivery. Use Social Furniture's financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. Social Furniture's President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Visit Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
What if I told you there was a breakthrough technology for treating erectile dysfunction that can eliminate ED? This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I'm not going to tell you that. Because despite what some groups claim in their ads, the truth is, there is no such thing. What they're talking about is acoustic wave therapy, and it's been used to treat ED for many years. In fact, we've used it in our practice since 2018. And while wave therapy is useful for some ED cases, it's not a miracle cure. And you could spend a lot of money with those other groups finding that out. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we offer many ED treatments, including wave therapy. We've successfully treated thousands of men with protocols that have success rates as high as 90%, and will find the right treatment for you. You could even have great sex the day after your appointment. So don't be fooled. Call us today and get the right treatment for you. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Partly cloudy skies this afternoon with a high of 44 degrees, up to 47 on Saturday and 50 on Sunday, with some light rain showers possible late Saturday into early Sunday morning.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
How can a half-carat diamond magically grow into a 2-carat diamond? With Genesis Diamond's 110% diamond upgrade guarantee.
Our trade-up policy is the best in the United States.
That's Stasia at Genesis, explaining how if you buy a diamond today and want to trade it in for a bigger one next year, Genesis always gives you back your original purchase price plus an extra 10%.
We will gladly give you every single penny you paid for the diamond plus an extra 10%, which is amazing. No one does that.
As a real-life example, take Stasia's customer Paul.
When he first started, he got a half-carat, and then as he became more successful, we rewarded him. He came in and he got a 3/4 carat, and then he's traded for a carat. I'm sure I'll see him this year for a carat and a half. As they grow and change and become more successful, their engagement ring can grow with them also.
And there's no catch, no minimum trade-up requirement, and it works on diamond studs and diamond pendants as well.
You get every single investment dollar you put into the diamond, you will get an extra 10% towards the new diamond.
Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes.
You can trade as many times as you wish.
Continuously voted best jewelry store and best place to buy an engagement ring. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Inside knowledge on the Titans.
Todd Downey's got his notepad out right now, just writing things down.
Inside knowledge on the Predators.
They can go right into the forecheck, and boom, you get a beautiful goal from Colton Sissons.
And then there's a team in Knoxville.
How excited should Tennessee fans be by what they've seen from Josh Heupel in year one?
Wake up and hang out with Robbie and Rexroad. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
You're listening to Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Puck comes to the slot area, gotten back and pushed in front. Foxa with the shot. That stopped by Saros. He didn't get much on it, but Saros still had to make the stop. And the puck comes into the side of the Dallas goal. Heiskanen for Ben. 2-on-1. Ben shot stopped. Rebound try. And that one stopped by Saros.
Go back.
And from behind the play, a tie-up behind the Nashville goal.
After last night and after so many Predators games, not just this season, but last season as well, I've had to step back and ask myself, where in the world would this team be if they did not have a one UC Saros in net saving their asses night in and night out? Because, I mean,
valid question.
Saying that a goaltender stole a game, I don't know if I would necessarily say that UC Saros stole that game last night, but he had one heck of a game, and he absolutely kept them in that game. And he's done that so many, and we'll just focus on this season. He's done it so many games this season. I mean, UC Saros absolutely is the guy who's been able to keep the Predators in contention for the playoffs because their offense has been so inconsistent, and because we kind of ask ourselves, what Predators team are we going to see here tonight? So I have to ask, where would the Predators be without a UC Saros in net? Not just last night, but this entire season.
I think most importantly, I guess, is on the outside of the playoffs looking in. Like, they're in the position right now because they're able to get steal a lot of these games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's funny when you go back and look at a lot of the games the Preds have been winning too. Like, they're not out shooting their opponents, or they're not having better, they don't have, I guess, better high danger chances, or a lot of the metrics don't absolutely love the Preds in a lot of these games. But UC Saros and having that goalie keeps you in it, which is why I think the Preds, if they can just get to the playoffs, and I'm kind of like this way in the NHL in general, that if you can just get to the playoffs with a red-hot goalie, I don't care if you're the 8 seed, 7, 6 seed. We saw it with the man, Pekka Rinne. As an 8 seed, they made a run because you had the best goalie in the sport that year. And UC's in that upper echelon of goalies of the top 3 or 4 in the sport this year, and that's going to keep you in games. That's the difference between a team that's not making the playoffs and a team that can possibly make a deep run in the playoffs.
That's one of my bigger questions about some of these teams in the Western Conference, who I would probably pick the Preds to beat in the first round. Whether it's St. Louis, I'd probably pick St. Louis. Minnesota, I'd probably would lean Minnesota. Vegas, it's 50-50. But
I would lean Vegas.
But the goalies is the Preds, I think, have the advantage in goal in pretty much against every team in the Western Conference, I would argue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Minnesota's goalie. Do we know who that is? I mean, I do, but
I don't.
Yeah, St. Louis's goalie, your boy Binnington. You should check his numbers right now.
I mean, people talk about Binnington because of what he did in 2019.
I mean, his numbers right now are not great.
Not great.
Are they going to rely on Ville Husso in the playoffs?
I wouldn't think so.
I mean,
can you?
Vegas, Robin Lehner, okay.
He's been so up and down.
But I mean, do I trust him more than Saros? Probably not. Calgary, I would argue Jacob Markstrom is having a very good season.
And he's getting better, too.
And he's pretty good. And he's probably one of the more legit in the Western Conference. I mean, Colorado is a great team. I mean, what do we think about Darcy Kemper as a goalie to bring your team through the playoffs?
They've never had to really do that, or Kemper's never really had to do that.
So as much as I don't think that the Preds would win a first-round series, the lack of the Western Conference top goalies, compared to the East, when you talk about Tampa and Vasilevsky, you talk about Carolina and Freddie Anderson, you talk about the Rangers and the Shesterkin kid.
Guys, that kid's a monster.
Yeah. So
he is as good
I mean,
as
you got some teams, even Florida, but you have Bobrovsky, who has proven he can get hot and play well. So in the East, the goalie situation is a little bit more difficult, but in the West, that's where I still always kind of lean back to the Preds. We're hey, if Saros can get hot, he can carry you through some of these teams. So I don't know.
But he can't carry you through the playoffs. I mean, I think that there was this narrative written in 2019 because Jordan Binnington absolutely stole the Stanley Cup for the St. Louis Blues. And I think that there are so many outliers and not rules from that 2019 Stanley Cup run for the St. Louis Blues. And I think that's something that a lot of Predators fans have tried to apply to the Predators. But I just don't think that that's necessarily the case. I don't think that you can look at that as the rule and not the exception.
Yeah, you got to have other things fall in your favor too. Like you got to be really physical because when you play in the playoffs, the game slows down. Shots won't be the game's not as wide open, I guess I should say that. It's not going to be as wide open. You're going to play in more games like what you played in last night. You need scoring balance. And I think in terms of those two aspects too, I think the Preds this year in terms of last year, I like comparing this year and last year because I feel like the teams are similar. I feel like this one got better because they're a little more physical. And the Preds obviously, when you lead the league in penalty minutes, means you're a pretty physical team. Now, there's a difference between playing physical and playing reckless.
Dumb penalties.
Yeah, and I think if the Preds can cut that down, then a lot of the problems are going to solve themselves. But the scoring balance this year is so much better than last year, just because of Duchesne's playing a whole lot better. Forsberg is playing his best. Your big money guys have played better than they did last year. Because last year, I mean, you got on that hot streak at the end of the season. But I just don't feel like you had the amount of scoring depth they do this year. And I think if there's a big difference in making a run, adding those two elements with your goaltending has to make you feel at least a little better about a sustainability of having a hot goalie.
Let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Andrew from Dover texts in and says, the ovation that Shea Weber got last night was ridiculous. Do you think Nashville should retire his number 2? Yes. I think that's probably on the way at some point. I mean, I have to think that's. I mean, when you think about Pekka Rinne, I mean, his partner in crime within getting this team on the map and getting this excitement surrounding the Nashville Predators, those two names go hand in hand. So I have to think that if there is going to be a jersey coming up next in the near future, probably has to be Shea Weber.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset with that. I wouldn't be like, oh, they're reaching. It's like Shea Weber meant a lot to this team too. A lot of all-star appearances. Got robbed of a few Norris trophies because Nicholas Lidstrom existed. But which is kind of I guess we talked about it off air too, my kind of line of demarcation of maybe if we have to set parameters on jersey retirement, if you want a major award, I feel like it almost makes you a shoo-in because that means you're the best at your position for at least 1 year. And if those teams were successful, then it makes sense. You're the best at your position. You led to your team's success. I think that's an easy hand-in-hand thing. And Shea Weber I can make an exception for because he should have won at least 2 of those. I think Nicholas Lidstrom winning he's 7th or 8th in that last one.
Lidstrom, I think, got one from him. And I think the one that I remember bothering me the most at the time was Erik Carlson.
Yeah, that one bothered me a little bit too.
I think beat him over, topped Shea Weber in one of those. And it was, if it were nowadays, and some maybe, although I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say that because Carlson's offensive numbers were so good, but his defensive liability. Anyways, he probably,
the Carlson scoring defenseman.
Carlson one, I think, was the one that kind of, kind of stuck with us a little bit back then.
At least 2 where he just definitely got robbed.
And I think it's longevity as well. I mean, you can't have one big hot year and then kind of fall off and be, just amongst the no-names. It's longevity and it's continued success. We have another texter text in and says, I'd argue you could connect Pekka to bring in the NFL draft here based on the Cup run. Now, I wasn't here when the draft was here. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think it was the Titans playing the game in London. Maybe the NFL saw, the Cup run. Maybe the NFL saw the NHL All-Star Game and all of the pomp and circumstance and all of the crowd surrounding it. But I have a hard time believing that those two things are necessarily connected.
It didn't hurt?
It didn't hurt. Absolutely not. But I don't see where that connection necessarily is, totally connected.
Yeah. Like I said, it didn't hurt because I'm sure that the NFL looked at that and said, okay, well, maybe this is the right decision. We're not having any second guesses because of how they showed out, for this event. But that's something I think they probably had. And like in motion for a long time. The Nashville Sports Council and the Titans probably working endlessly to get the draft here.
The Titans doing their due diligence in order to get the draft here, and it's not like this city was some sort of podunk middle of nowhere nothing, and then all of a sudden the Cup run happened, and then Broadway was built up, and it all of a sudden became a big city. No, I mean at that point Nashville very much so was a marquee destination. So. Are those two things connected? Maybe, but I don't know if I'm fully there yet. But Nate texts in and says, my favorite moment from last night was when Pekka told everyone to please sit down.
Polite.
I think that is one thing is that I've heard so many times day in and day out is Pekka Rinne just does not like to be, to have all of this excitement surrounding him, to have all of this praise surrounding him. When all these people are on their feet, hooting and hollering for who he is and what he's done, he says, can you guys just please stop and sit down?
He doesn't crave it. And
nope.
That's the difference in him and a lot of other people that are having a night like that. He's not craving this kind of attention. It probably killed him inside to do all these interviews, TV, radio. Probably killed him inside just a little bit. But no, I think it's not one of those things he's going out of his way to try to achieve.
615-737-1025. Corey Curtis will join us in just a bit. Before we talk to Corey, there's a little bit of a drama going on with Philip Forsberg. Who do we believe? It's a tale of two tweets. We'll get into that coming up next. Before we do that, I'll let y'all know that the 2022 Navy Federal Credit Union NHL Stadium Series is coming to Nissan Stadium tomorrow. This outdoor game has your Nashville Predators facing off against the Tampa Bay Lightning and will also feature performances by Miranda Lambert and Dirk Bentley. It's going to be a party, and Preds fans, you are not going to want to miss it. Visit nhl.com/stadium series for more details and to purchase tickets.
The MTSU Blue Raiders live here.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee!
And when you're in the borough, tune us in on 97.5.
In the end zone, caught, touchdown!
We are Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Think back to a time when you've had to contend with a difficult challenge in your life, but that, in the end, came out okay. I'm willing to bet that in almost all those cases, you had someone alongside you that you trusted, whether the challenge related to a career change, a health crisis, or even the death of a loved one. But if the challenge is divorce, and you're a guy, there's a good chance that your trusted friend for all life's challenges to date has been your spouse, whom the legal system now terms the opposing party. This is why guys notoriously are prone to feeling isolated and alone during the divorce process. The good news is you don't have to go through this alone. Let Cordell & Cordell be the partner that you can count on through the challenges of divorce. Call us at 866-DADS-LAW or visit CordellCordell.com. You are not alone.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Nashville area attorneys. 866-DADS-LAW, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067. CordellCordell.com.
Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee ensures children and teens, especially those who need us most, are ready to read, ready for class, ready to graduate, ready for their career, and ready to serve the community. You can support local youth and their great futures by donating at bgcmt.org.
When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics. If you have painful joints, arthroscopic surgery may be the cure to solve your pain. Arthroscopic surgery is minimally invasive and provides faster recovery time. The experienced doctors at Houston Clinic Orthopedics may be able to get you feeling back to normal with an arthroscopic surgery of your knee, shoulder, hip, elbow, wrist, or ankle. Each of the 10 locations in Middle Tennessee has an arthroscopic surgeon that can determine if this type of surgery is the best option for you. Visit tn.houston.com to learn more and to book an appointment. Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money. Easy to learn, easy to use, small business software tailored just for you. With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno-country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, with Darren, Donick, and Chase middays from 10 to 2.
Talk amongst themselves. It's not a star-studded group. They're not all there.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell media station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Caroline Fenton joined by Elijah Campbell filling in for Jared Stillman today. We will talk to Corey Curtis in just about 15 minutes. We'll chat with Corey about some Preds news, a little bit of Titans free agency news as well. But on Wednesday, we heard from Andy Strickland, ringside reporter for Bally Sports Midwest, covers the St. Louis Blues. Andy Strickland tweeted out on Wednesday evening, hearing the Preds are actively shopping superstar Filip Forsberg, which has been a topic of conversation from the very beginning of this season. What are the Predators going to do? Filip Forsberg likely wants a very long contract worth a lot of money. Are the Preds willing to dish out the time? Are they willing to dish out the money for a player who has been in and out of the lineup with injury, for a player who we've seen in the past just absolutely plays explosively before a contract? You know, we've been debating, well, if you get rid of Forsberg, wouldn't you be just looking for another Forsberg? Or is it, the Predators have a bad history of just dishing out way too much money and way too much time on contracts with Filip Forsberg? It's been in contention for a while. So that's what we discussed yesterday is, are the Predators actively shopping Filip Forsberg? Is that a legitimate thing? What can the Predators get in return for Filip Forsberg? And is it worth it? We heard from John Burton last night, our friend, a sports reporter here in Nashville, says David Poile just told me the team is not actively shopping forward Filip Forsberg in a trade as is being reported, maintains the team wants to sign him long-term, and negotiations with his reps are ongoing. So I thought this was interesting because I think it all goes down to, what does the word shopping mean to you? Because I think that a lot of people saw this Andy Strickland tweet and initially jumped to the conclusion of Filip Forsberg is being traded.
And will be within like a week.
Yeah, and it's happening immediately.
Right.
But in my mind, shopping is a very large spectrum of things that could mean a lot of different things. Does shopping mean that David Poile is willing to put ink to paper and willing to dish out Filip Forsberg today? Or does shopping simply mean if someone calls, if a general manager calls and has an offer for Forsberg, I'll pick up the phone and I'll at least listen. Mm-hmm. And you and I both discussed it, that is David Poile doing his due diligence, because that is technically shopping Filip Forsberg. That doesn't necessarily mean he's on his way out. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is a deal that is going to be happening today, but that does fall under the category of shopping.
Yeah.
But I think that's David Poile doing his due diligence, because you have Filip Forsberg, who is on an absolute heater. He is someone who is attractive, and if there's a team out there that thinks that they are a Filip Forsberg away from this Stanley Cup, and they're willing to dish you 2 firsts and a prospect, 2 firsts and a fourth, and a couple low-level players, whether that's a first and a couple, whatever it may be. If it's an attractive offer, and David Poile thinks, well, I don't think that this team can necessarily win with Filip Forsberg, so what's the point in holding on to him? Then I don't blame him whatsoever. So if I'm going to be completely honest, I was a little discouraged by John Burton's tweet last night, because I think that there is a trade partner out there that absolutely would be willing to give a really attractive offer for Filip Forsberg.
And overpay.
And that's the thing. If you can get a couple first-round picks, why wouldn't you do it? Because I personally live in the camp right now that I don't think that this team with Filip Forsberg can win a Stanley Cup. So what are you holding on to him for? Get the picks, develop in your team long-term, develop for the future. And then I hear the side of people who say, well, the Predators have a terrible track record in drafting and developing big-time forwards. So is that going to stop you from at least trying?
And it depends on what you get in the return, too. Can
It
you
totally
get a
depends on the
solid
return.
forward that your scouting department loves? And that's the thing, too. And that's why you have scouts to like scout other teams. It's like if these players were available in these kind of trades, like you take it. I like the analyzing of the word shopping, because that word shopping is doing a whole lot of heavy lifting in this tweet here for multiple reasons.
Yep.
Like you mentioned it off air and you mentioned just then. Like when you go shopping, you're not doing the same thing each time.
Yeah.
There's like serious shopping where it's like I came here to buy a specific thing for a specific purpose.
I need shoes for my outfit.
Exactly. Very specific.
Yep.
And then there's window shopping. I think the term window shopping is probably what's more appropriate in this tweet. I think that's probably what's going on. And with John's tweet saying that the Preds have told him that they are not, that they kind of refute that a little bit. I think they're kind of hedging, because I think they have been. I think there's definitely some truth to Strickland's tweet, because
which is okay.
Which is A-okay. Which, if, as a Preds fan, it's what you want.
You should want David Poile to be willing to do what he needs to do in order to set this team up for success. I understand that fans love Philip Forsberg, because how could you not? I mean, he's been so incredibly fun to watch this season. He feels like such a core part of this team.
Fan favorite.
He's a fan favorite, and I understand that fans can think that way. But David Poile cannot think like a fan. David Poile cannot fall in love with his players, because at the end of the day, this is a business, and Philip Forsberg is one of your best assets. So if you can get something in return for him, and your vision for this team is long-term, that's what you have to do.
And if the offer is being asked, like, it's a business both ways for the player and the GM too. Because if, like, they've been talking with his agent, if the agent's giving him a number that they don't like, it's going to be really hard to account for another big-time money deal for another lengthy contract. They've learned that lesson the hard way. So, like, we've gone through this, on this whole station of the last, couple months of to sign Philip Forsberg or not to sign Philip Forsberg. But I think the biggest thing is, like, we should be at least glad, if you're a Preds fan, that the due diligence is being done, and you're not going to find out what's out there if you don't pick up this cell phone. I'm holding a cell phone on the stream right now for you to see. If you don't pick this bad boy up and see what's out there, it's going to be really hard to judge what the value in the market for him is if you try to trade him now. Teams are desperate, Caroline. There's several teams that are in contention that could use an extra scorer like Philip Forsberg to really put them over the edge in terms of winning a Stanley Cup. The Toronto Maple Leafs are seemingly interested, especially on their fans' Twitter, Maple Leaf fan Twitter, I should rephrase that, are all interested, whether it be Matthias Ekholm's on the trading block, Philip Forsberg's on the trading block.
That Leaf Twitter's nuts.
Leaf Twitter is akin to some SEC fan base Twitter, I can imagine. And from what I've heard,
Is it a certain orange and white team that you're thinking of?
Yeah, very much so. Where if there's a remote possibility, like what John Gruden rumors were to Vol Twitter, Philip Forsberg and Matthias Ekholm rumors have been to Toronto Maple Leaf Twitter in the last couple trade deadlines too. And like, there's teams that are going to be desperate, that might overpay, that might be willing to part with draft picks, that might be willing to give away players who can contribute right now, who you think you can develop into a really solid forward for years to come. Those have to be weighed as options. And my thing is, I'm not too heavy on trading Forsberg, signing him or not re-signing him one way or the other, because I need to see the full picture. And I think that's what David Poile is doing too. And I think he's absolutely been the facilitator of calls guessing. I don't know this, but I think he has, because I think that's what you have to do in this situation. I think there's a little bit of truth in Strickland's tweet, because his sources are probably agents or front office members.
But I do have to wonder,
he's getting
why is this one guy in Bally Sports Midwest, this one guy that covers the Blues, why does he have the information on Philip Forsberg?
That's where it gets juicy.
That's where it's interesting.
And because he either knows someone who's been in the room with that phone call, and maybe he also misconstrued information. Maybe his source told him that, hey, so-and-so was on the phone with David Poile and Philip Forsberg's name came up and he called about Philip Forsberg, maybe with no real intention of actually quote-unquote shopping him. That's where my point of the word shopping in that tweet is doing some Olympic-sized heavy lifting here, because we don't know exactly what they mean by actively shopping. It could just be gauging. It could be window shopping. And I feel like that's really where breaking down this tweet and what it means is going to come down to when we look at this over the next coming weeks.
And I do think it's another important thing to point out to a lot of Predators fans, because I saw when this tweet last night saying that John Burton's tweet saying that the Predators were not shopping Philip Forsberg. So many Predators fans were very excited. I just can't get overly excited about re-signing Philip Forsberg whenever it involves so much money. And the Predators have a history, a very recent history of signing 2 players in particular to long contracts for a lot of money that they didn't necessarily earn. In Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson. We saw it with Philip Forsberg in the past, where when he was working for a contract, he played his butt off. And once he got that contract, he was sitting big and pretty. I'm not going to question his effort, but it just makes me nervous in the future. Are the Predators going to continue to dish out a ton of money for players that don't necessarily deliver when you could have had a couple first-round picks and a couple prospects knocking on your door and saying, hey, we'll be able to contribute in a few years? It's not like Forsberg is old, but he's also not young either. It's an 8-year contract that he wants to sign, and then he's up for another contract when he's 35, 36 years old.
He'll be well out of his prime.
$9 million a year. It makes me a bit nervous.
As it should. And like that needs to be thoroughly thought through too. And the thing is, to me, it's sustainability. The biggest thing is sustainability. He was at one point scoring 1 goal every 4 shot attempts. Like, players don't do that on an annual basis. Like, yes, he's got 26 goals through 39 games right now. He is going to blow by his career high in goals in a season. I feel like that. And he's probably going to break the record for the Preds record for goals in a season as well. I guess the thing is that they need to weigh out is those numbers, like you mentioned, and what's this contract going to look like when he's at the back end of his prime? Because if you sign him to this, and it's a big deal with a lot of years added to that contract, his best years will probably be behind him on the whole back half of that deal. That's safe to say. You never know. Maybe he gets better with age. Maybe he becomes Tom Brady. Who knows? But you're not banking on that. So you got to take that into account, as well as how sustainable is the pace he's on right now. He's at a insane pace, like a blacking out pace right now, especially with his career standards. But how sustainable is that? Is it luck? Is it something they think he can replicate year in and year out? That needs to be weighed into, and maybe selling high, if they don't think that's the possibility, might be the way to go.
And just because he is your premier forward does not make him a premier forward. But we will go to your phones. Phone lines from WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ricky is up next on Forsberg.
Hey, guys. I just wanted to point out a couple things. 2 real quick points. First one, Andy Strickland. He's not just a St. Louis Blues reporter. He has the #1 hockey podcast in the country with Cam Jansen. So he has access to general managers pretty much on a daily basis on their podcast.
Yeah, good sources.
Second point I wanted to make was Forsberg. Just take a look at the New York Rangers, Mika Zibanejad. That's the contract starting point for a guy like that. That's $8.5 million, 8 years. I think that most stars right now, if you look over the last couple seasons, the mega stars have all gotten 8 years plus. I'm testing that in him. He's lazy when he's not playing for a contract, and he has not been consistently healthy. The warning signs are there with him. Grab 2 or 3 first, marginal, second line, third line players, and let's go. Let's go into a situation where he gets the urgency needs for a year or two, turn it into a team that possibly can win 1 round, and then we're mortgaging the farm for the next 8 years.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Ricky. I mean, I'm not questioning Andy Strickland's integrity as a journalist. I'm just saying it sounds odd coming from...
He's getting it from somewhere.
Yeah. And also to his second point, the Stars are getting at least 8 years, $8 million plus, somewhere between an $8 million and a Roman Josi 9.5 for the Stars. Philip Forsberg is your star. Philip Forsberg is not the star in the NHL. Philip Forsberg is not a premier forward. He is your premier forward. So why not go out and get a premier forward? 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Corey Curtis will join us coming up next. Stillman & Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
TriStar Movers, those are my official movers, and I absolutely love TriStar. Been telling you about TriStar for years now, or I say years, a year and a half now, because when I moved in 2020, I used TriStar Movers, and for something that I hate as stressful as moving, they did a fantastic job. That's why their motto is TriStar Movers with 5-star service. From the initial phone call to the final signature, moving was a breeze. They offer home protection, so they cover your floors, banisters, railings, door jambs, and even the doors themselves. And they're always upping the game when it comes to mover training. They have a brand new state-of-the-art storage facility in Mount Juliet as well, because they do it all. Their owners, Garrett and Robert, are my friends and true Nashvillians that truly care about helping the people of their hometown. This company is the real deal and on the rise quickly because of the high standard that they hold. So if you're looking to move, give my friends at TriStar Moving a call, 615-640-1219, or visit their website, nashvillemoving.org/radio. Again, they'll give you 5% off your entire move. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, nashvillemoving.org/radio. Tell them I sent you. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
Every Thursday at 1 on Darren, Donick, and Chase, we're joined by Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman for the best inside knowledge on the NHL. It's all brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Dell Technologies advisors are here with the right Windows PC and tech solutions, so you can stop at nothing for your customers. Call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. A start to a simpler experience with Windows 11 Pro.
Need cash for that home improvement or want to finally be credit card debt free? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto can do it for you, whether you have a VA loan or a conventional loan. They're helping local homeowners convert their home equity into cash with zero closing costs. Willie Donick here. Listen, your home value is up. Let Loan Pronto tap that equity and get you the cash you need. Pay off high interest loans. Start that home remodeling project. Veteran homeowners are really loving this because with a VA loan, you can tap 100% of your home's equity. That's a ton of cash. Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They are doing loans with APRs in the 2s. And if you call now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now to see what your options are. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut-rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Stillman and Company. Corey Curtis joins us now. Corey, we've had some conflicting tweets. We had one from Andy Strickland on Wednesday night saying the Predators are actively shopping Philip Forsberg, whatever actively shopping means. And then John Burton comes out with a tweet last night saying David Poile said the team is not actively shopping Philip Forsberg. Who should we believe, and which one do you want to believe, Corey?
I think you got to look right down the middle. And I think what you've got to do is say, what is reasonable in this scenario? And what is reasonable in this scenario is the Predators would like to re-sign Philip Forsberg, but no, it's not an automatic that they can get it done. And so if they can't get it done, they cannot have another Ryan Suter incident where a player who can fetch them at least a first-round pick, at the very least, cannot walk away at the end of the season with his contract expiring. You just can't allow it to happen. And so what you do is you make calls, and you don't shop them, but you find out what the demand is. And so I think that there are certainly calls out there that are investigating what Forsberg's market is and what his value is. But I think that's different than calling around and saying, hey, Raj, Philip's going on the market. You're my first call. What do you got? And I think those are two entirely different things. And I'm not calling anybody a liar in this situation, but what I am saying is sometimes when people put things out, that the wording isn't always 100% correct. And that would be my guess in this scenario. Because it makes sense to make calls. I don't think it makes sense. Unless Forsberg's people have told me, yeah, we're not resigning, it doesn't make sense to just go out and say, yeah, we're shipping them out.
And that's exactly my point. I said shopping can mean anything. It could say I'm picking up the phone when someone calls, or it could be I'm ready to put pen to paper. Shopping could mean a multitude of different things. But in your opinion, what is this team with Forsberg? And if they do decide to trade him before the deadline, what does this team look like without him?
Well, I mean, look, he has shown this year he is a guy capable of carrying you to a win, and probably carrying you to a win in a series. I mean, he is. How many goals is he sitting on now? 27. and he missed a handful of games. So, he's on a pretty good pace. I don't know what his pace would be over an 82-game schedule, but I'm going to guess it'd be well over 40. And he is playing with a lot of confidence and, just makes everybody around him better. Now, they've shown they can win without him because they got a lot of guys who can score right now. But as someone who has covered this team for 20 years can tell you, 30 goal scorers do not grow on trees. The Preds have not had a lot of them. And so you would like to see them hang on to him and build the team around him, because I do feel like he's a guy who shows up to play. And I feel like he's been a part of this organization. So I think, they're better with him than without him. But I agree with the notion that if you can't get him to sign for the price that you think you need to sign him at, you got to trade him. As tough as it is, as painful as it is, you got to get assets for him.
Corey Curtis from News 2 on the line with us. And Corey, when it comes to Philip Forsberg too, I think the biggest thing is he's having this career year, and a lot of it, at one point this year, I think he was scoring 1 goal every 4 or 5 shots on net, which just simply isn't sustainable. It was a scorching pace. And I think when the Preds are having to make this decision on the future with him, the biggest thing they need to take into account is whether or not what he's doing right now or anything close to it is sustainable. So when you watch Philip Forsberg play, given the amount of looks they get with him on the ice or the looks or chances that he helps generate too, how sustainable is this kind of pace?
Well, obviously he's on a torrid pace, and I wouldn't call it sustainable because we've never seen it before. We've seen him be streaky. We've seen him have runs where he's been on, but not start to finish this long. So I agree with you. You can't pay him solely based on this year's results. And if they want to be paid just on this year's results, you're not going to come to an agreement. At least I would. There's too much hay in the barn to look at and say, well, what about this year, and this year? That didn't mean those years were bad, but what it does mean is those years aren't this year. And so, he may be on pace to be a 40 or 50 goal scorer this year over 82 games. I don't know what it is. That's not what he has shown he is. I do believe that with a new deal he can be a 30-goal scorer every year, 30 to 38? Yeah, I do. I think he's got that kind of ability, and I think with this system and the way the players are playing around him, he's shown he can be productive. So I think he's certainly worth an investment, but I don't think you can pay him just on the pace that he's on this year. If he wants that, he's going to have to go somewhere else.
And then another Preds-related storyline, too. Obviously, special night at Bridgestone Arena last night with Pekka Rinne getting not just his jersey retired, but the announcement of a statue in front of Bridgestone Arena. We had the statue conversation in the first hour of the show today, and my thing is, too, if you ask people in Nashville, I think it'll be overwhelmingly, yes, Pekka Rinne deserves, this kind of recognition. But I guess if you ask a lot of fan bases outside of Nashville, they look at the resume and say, maybe this isn't statue worthy, or the statue police might come in and say, oh, he didn't win a Stanley Cup, you don't need a statue. But my thing is, what I want to ask you is, how would you explain Pekka Rinne's impact to people outside of the Nashville market that maybe don't understand the importance to the franchise the way we do here?
Well, I think it's a good question, and I think you have to look at what's similar to Steve McNair, Eddie George Hall of Fame conversation. We know how big those guys were here and with this football team, but it's Nashville, and so Nashville gets swept under the rug because it's a new football market, it's a new hockey market. And look, a lot of these other markets have a lot of history. They have great players. They have, banners up that say Stanley Cup champions. They're not building a history like the Predators. I mean, we're still stacking the first bricks of the Predators' history, the first Stanley Cup banner, the President's Trophy banner, the Central Division champion banners. And now you've got your first retired number. And you have to understand how important this guy was, because not only was he a great player, and not only was he a great human being, and this is the really important part. When this team was teetering on the brink and guys were fleeing the ship, he stuck his flag in the ground and said, nope, this is my city, this is my team, I am staying here. I don't want to go anywhere else. when nobody else was saying that. And he was a rallying point for this entire fan base. And now it also helped that he was arguably the best goalie in the game for a few years. But to be that guy to say, this is a place you can stay and you should want to stay, I think it's extremely important. But particularly in a market like this one, I think it's extremely important. This symbol that he was for this franchise, I think absolutely makes him worthy. I think it's a great decision. And, last night and what's happening for me is one of the thrills of my career, because when he retired, even the years before he retired, I said his jersey needs to be the first one to go up, and they don't need to wait. I would have hated for them to have waited 5 years to do this. I am really glad they did it in the first year, because they needed to acknowledge immediately how important this guy was, and also allow the people who paid to come see him play to be the ones to be there to appreciate that moment.
Talking to Corey Curtis News, too. Switching gears a little bit, Corey, to the Titans. There's several offseason needs. You're looking at offensive line. You're looking at wide receiver. You're looking at tight end, potentially linebacker, defensive line, kicker. I mean, the laundry list of offseason needs for the Titans goes on and on and on. In your opinion, what's the best approach, free agency versus draft, addressing certain needs? Where should the Titans look to fill those holes in the roster?
Well, number one, I'm looking to the draft to help fix the salary cap situation. And I know what Jared says, and that the salary cap doesn't exist, and they don't worry about it. But it's a real thing. And you do have A.J. Brown, and you do have Jeffrey Simmons. And these guys are going to need to get paid, and you're going to need to create room for them at some point. And you're also, like I've said before, you're getting old up front. So the first thing I'm looking to do is trade back in the draft and get more picks in the first 4 rounds, okay? And it's there that I want to address the offensive line and the tight end position and possibly the wide receiver position. I think if you can get 4 picks in the first 4 rounds, I think you can find 4 guys who can fill gaps for you immediately in those departments. I don't know that there's a player for them at 26 where I'm so excited about that player where I say, well, they got to hold on to it and they've got to draft that guy. I think they would be much better off getting, say, a second and a third for that pick and adding more players that can help them in those spots, because I do think they've got to get younger and they've got to get less expensive on the offensive line. They're not going to address kicker, and I say that because they have not addressed kicker in years. Apparently, it is not an important position to them. They have not treated it like it's an important position.
That shows.
So until they do, I'm not going to think that they're going to do a darn thing about the kicker position. Now, the tight end position, they treated last year like it was not an important position. And we're going to see if they do that 2 years in a row or not. I think they need to draft somebody, and it would help if they would bring in a free agent as well. If you could draft somebody like Ruckert from Ohio State in round 3 and then bring in a guy like Hayden Hurst or Njoku, some of these more athletic type tight ends who've been kind of busts from their draft status but do have some ability to pair with your first-round pick, and then bring back one of your blockers, Michael Pruitt or Jeffrey Swain, I think you can do something there. But I think they've got to address that position. But last year, they treated like that position wasn't important. So we'll see if they treat it like it's important. On the defensive side, I think it really comes down to if you bring Harold Landry back or not, and how aggressively you want to address the edge. I think on the defensive line, they're in good shape because Naquan Jones and Tier Tart, undrafted free agents, proved to be pretty good football players for them that they can build in the future with and aren't going to cost them a ton of money.
It's Fireball Hot Take Friday. Corey, what's your hot take this week?
Where's Jared Stillman? Where's Jared Stillman?
Jared Stillman is playing hooky today.
What did he do and who did he upset? That's all I want to know.
Who did he upset is a loaded question, Corey. I mean, there's a long list of people that he's probably upset, not just this week, but over the years. But he is sitting pretty today.
All right. My real hot take is this. Somebody in the quarterback position in the NFL draft is going to take off, and somebody's going to trade up high to get him. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to the combine next week to see who that somebody is.
Do you have a short list of who those quarterbacks could be?
Well, I mean, it's the standard guys. You've got Pickett, right? And
you got Willis.
Yeah, I mean, those,
Desmond Ridder.
Pickett's got the numbers, and Willis has the athleticism. And so we'll see if one of those guys can stand out. What's the kid's name? Howell from North Carolina.
Sam Howell.
He doesn't excite me that much. But somebody's going to be a guy that people pump up, that they say you're going to have to trade up to get this guy. And that's what's going to happen. And so, how do one of these guys get there? I don't know. But that's what always seems to happen in this process, and I think it'll happen again, and I'm excited to see who it is. We'll see. I mean, I think, Willis is the exciting one because, how many of us have watched him play? I mean, not many of us.
I love Malik Willis. I think he's so underrated.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He is underrated. Nobody knows that much about him.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's about to go to Indianapolis, and we all get to see what he's about. And if he puts up some strong numbers and looks the part, all of a sudden he could be the guy that everybody's talking about when Indianapolis is over.
Corey, we appreciate you. We'll see you next Friday.
All right, tell Jared that I'm suspicious.
I will. I'll pass the message along. All right, we appreciate you, Corey. Corey Curtis joining us as he does every Friday on the program. Coming up next, Corey addressed the ways that the Titans can fill some of those holes in their roster. I want to get into what he said coming up next. We'll do that on the other side. Before we do that, text in SEC now to the game text line at 615-737-1025 for your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament for Session 1, Games 1 and 2 at Bridgestone Arena on Wednesday, March 2nd. Text now SEC to 615-737-1025 to get qualified to win.
Want the latest on the Predators from the people that cover them?
Heck of a year so far for the Predators. They've been so much fun to watch.
Join Robbie Stanley for Preds Insiders every Monday at 6.
I feel probably as good about this group of 6 on D.
Presented by Dr. Kelly Rice on Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Are you a father that is passionate about your fundamental constitutional right to parent your own child or children? Has your parenting time or your income been affected by COVID? This is Amanda J. Gentry, and I am a fierce defender of your constitutional rights. The courts in Tennessee are under an obligation to maximize equal parenting time. We do not live in an every other weekend world anymore. At the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry, fathers are extremely important, much like my own father was. Go to AmandaJGentry.com or call or text 615-604-6263. That's AmandaJGentry.com.
Hey, what's going on? It's Chase McCabe. Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at, you guessed it, my friends at BetMGM. Just sign up using the code 1025GAME, and your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, my favorite, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. Plus, you'll earn BetMGM rewards points that can be redeemed for online bonuses or converted into comps for rooms, restaurants, and more at over 20 MGM resorts in Las Vegas and nationwide. Just download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com. Use that code 1025GAME and place your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now, and they have same-day delivery. Use Social Furniture's financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. Social Furniture's President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Visit Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I want to talk to you about my friends at Carlson CBD. You hear me talk about them every single day because they present Darren, Donick, and Chase, and we are proud to be associated with them and happy about it. And if you have aches and pains, on your body, whether it's from working out, being active, getting older, and you're looking for a solution, well, I've got it. Carlson CBD. Carlson means healing, and that says a lot. Carlson is locally and organically sourced CBD products right here in Middle Tennessee. From seed to final sale, Carlson is passionate about providing quality products for everyday use, including your pets. And you've heard me tell this story. Our female German Shepherd has had seizures for over 3 years, and lots of them. No matter how many pills a day she was on, the vet visits, nothing changed. But since putting her on the pet tincture, everything has changed. The seizures have stopped, she's lost weight, and she's a dog again. Right now, Creation CBD has got a special offer for DDC listeners. Go to CreationCompany.com, get 25% off your order by using the code DDC25 at checkout. DDC25 at checkout for 25% off your Creation CBD products. It's Creation CBD, curated for life.
CSX, a growing Fortune 500 logistics company, has immediate openings for freight train conductors. If you're looking for a rewarding career offering paid training at nearly $25 per hour, competitive benefits, and you share a passion for great service, apply today at csx.com/careers. That's csx.com/careers. CSX, committed to supporting military and veteran families and their communities. CSX is an equal opportunity employer.
ESPN's Teron Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Presented by FreedomTireGuys.com, Nashville's premier mobile tire company. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville. This is Rick Stockstill, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
What would you say are free agency positions, and which ones would you say with this draft you think will be draft positions?
Tight end, free agency. Everything else, draft.
That was Teron Davenport on the TD Power Hour on Stillman and Company yesterday. And as soon as I heard TD say that, my eyebrow raised a little bit because picking up a tight end in free agency, totally on board. That's kind of what I was expecting the Titans to do anyway. But there are way more positions to be addressed than there are draft picks. I want a wide receiver. The Titans need offensive linemen. I mean, like Corey mentioned, the offensive line is getting old. You need to draft some talent that can get caught up and fill in those holes now. Is Dylan Radins going to be able to contribute next year? That's a question mark. I'm not counting it out.
Likely, yeah.
I'm not out of the Dylan Radins camp, but that's questionable, and that's a concern of mine that Dylan Radins wasn't able to contribute more than really the 49ers game. I want a tight end. I want a wide receiver. You need offensive linemen. You need depth at linebacker. I want a kicker. I hear Corey saying that the Titans have never addressed a kicker either in free agency or the draft. And everyone made fun of the Cincinnati Bengals for drafting a kicker in the 5th round last year. But where were the Cincinnati Bengals this year?
The Super Bowl off the leg of 2 game-winning kicks.
Like, if your kicker hasn't worked, like, if this is like an ongoing almost shtick with Tennessee Titans fans that, you know, we always on the kicker carousel, here we are back on the kicker carousel, then maybe do something different. I don't know. I'm not a general manager. But I heard Teron Davenport say, get a tight end in free agency, address everything else in the draft. But the Titans have a 1st, a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th round pick. You can expect that your 1st round pick, you can hope and you really need your 1st round pick to contribute right now, seeing as though the Titans' 1st round picks have not been able to do that the past 2 years. Once you get into the 5th and the 6th rounds, how much can you really trust that those positions or those players that you draft will be able to contribute right now, immediately? You can't really put that on your 5th and 6th round pick. So I hear Corey Curtis say the best possible option for the Titans is to trade that 1st round pick, pick up a few more picks, maybe a 2nd round pick and a 3rd. I don't hate that, but I also think you got to pick up more than just a tight end in free agency. It's going to cost more. It's gonna be more against your cap, but I think that the Titans have way too many holes that need to be addressed right now. The Titans are gonna cut Rutgers Saffold. They need someone to fill in that position right now, and I don't necessarily know if your 4th or 5th round pick is going to be able to contribute right now. We had Trevor Mattich on yesterday as well, saying that this is a deep offensive line draft. Great. But the Titans drafted a offensive lineman in the 2nd round last year, and he was able to come in and contribute for one game. So I don't I don't want to live in the camp of, well, John Robinson has had trouble drafting in the past couple of years, so I don't want to trust the draft. I'm not there. I don't believe in that. But I also don't want to put all of my eggs in the basket of a 3rd round offensive line pick.
Especially considering John Robinson's had some hits in the draft, too. I mean, if you look at how this defense looked this year and the success of this defense, a lot of that came off the backs of players he drafted. Jeffrey Simmons, pretty good player. Harold Landry, we're talking about him getting a big-time payday because of the way he played this year and played like a Pro Bowl linebacker. Another guy he drafted, David Long Jr., another guy he drafted, Jayon Brown, another guy he drafted. A lot of drafted players in this defense, or Kevin Byard in the second round.
Amani Hooker.
Hooker, exactly.
Christian Fulton.
Fulton. Like almost all these guys, really, with the exception of D'Amico Autry and Bud Dupree, like this defense was really built.
And Jack Rabbit.
Jack Rabbit.
But that's it.
But, I mean, let's pump the brakes on how much Jack Rabbit was really able to contribute this year.
Exactly.
But I fully believe that Christian Fulton isn't even near his ceiling. We haven't even seen nearly as much as what he can do with the Tennessee Titans. So, I mean, I don't subscribe to the belief that, well, you may as well just trade all your first-round picks. It's not like John Robinson can hit on them anyways.
Exactly.
No.
You're going to have misses.
That's silly.
Law of averages, it's just, it does kind of suck. Like they've had some more embarrassing misses, I guess. Like the Isaiah Wilson thing is a PR nightmare. And, like, I think that's what makes that one so bad. And the fact they never even played, like, a meaningful snap in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that is some of it, though. Maybe, like, some of his higher pick misses have been, like, kind of bad misses.
They're just embarrassing, yeah.
You know, like the Isaiah Wilson one and then the Kevin Dodd one.
The Kevin Dodd one, yeah.
Those,
High profile.
Dodd might be, probably maybe unfair to judge him on considering it was so early in his tenure. But those two, I think, just turned out to be so bad that I think some people are even more, Corey Davis, Adoree Jackson, like they weren't as bad as those guys.
And you got something out of those
And you got something out of them.
But you're still not exercising your fifth year option on those guys.
So I think that doesn't help them, that some of those were so bad. But you would think some of the successes in the later rounds would help make up for that.
Yeah, it doesn't make me trust him any less. I guess it's kind of like what my point is. Like I still trust him to build through the draft. And like the more I think about it,
I just don't trust 4th and 5th round picks to be able to contribute right now.
It just depends on who you find, I guess, or why they're there, I guess, is another thing too.
And right now is the key point. Like next season, the 4th and 5th rounds, like Amani Hooker was a 4th round pick, but he didn't start right away.
No,
Kenny Vaccaro was starting. He was a good. Amani Hooker was a good special teams player. They had packages for him. Same with David Long Jr., very good special teams player, had a couple of packages. And it wasn't until probably, I guess this is their 3rd year or something like that they really kind of grew into starters. So you make a good point there, Caroline. To rely on them next season is probably unrealistic.
And you're going to want to build for the future, of course, but if we're going to talk so much about a Super Bowl window, and if you think that the Titans are in a window right now, then you can't just cut Roger Saffold and expect the guy that you drafted to be his replacement in the 4th round to be able to, seamlessly fill in there. Yeah. I mean, offensive line has been an issue this entire season. Offensive line was an issue the year before. And if you're sticking with Ryan Tannehill, he needs some serious protection up front. So, I mean, I look at the draft and I think the draft is so important. I don't think that you can have a Super Bowl winning team without at least building through the draft. Look at the 2 MVPs of the Super Bowl. They were both drafted by the Los Angeles Rams. But I also think that the Titans just don't necessarily have enough picks, and they're going to have to build through free agency as well. So I like the idea of trading back. I mean, either getting rid of your first round pick completely or trading back in the first round, picking up a few picks. But there is one name that Trevor Maddich brought up earlier this week that could be available to the Titans that fit John Robinson's MO. And if he's there at 26, the Titans have got to take him. We'll get into that coming up next. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, joined by Elijah Campbell, filling in for Jared Stillman today. Listen to Stillman and Company. We are live on ESPN 105 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Partly cloudy skies this afternoon with a high of 44 degrees, up to 47 on Saturday and 50 on Sunday, with some light rain showers possible late Saturday into early Sunday morning.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
When it comes to your credit card, Discover believes in having real people available 24/7 to help answer your questions. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe here to tell you about Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. Dr. Rice, listen, we all have cavities, but what's the best way to try and keep them from happening?
Cavities are like any other health condition. You don't really know you have one until it gets bad. Recently, I saw a patient for treatment that they had been putting off. Something that could have been simple to fix 6 months ago turned out to need a root canal and a crown. Postponing treatment costs more and takes time away from work.
Nobody wants a root canal, so you're right. Regular checkups are very important.
Well, we do things differently. I want to let people know that if they're afraid of pain or worried about the cost, they are not alone. Don't be embarrassed. We understand. Give us a call at 615-373-4488. That's KellyERice.com.
Dr. Kelly Rice Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. If you don't have dental insurance, no problem. Be sure to join their membership club. Just visit KellyERice.com or call 615-373-4488 now to schedule your cleaning and checkup. You'll certainly be glad you did.
Hey everybody, Robbie Stanley here to tell you about my friends at Jasper's as the neighborhood bar and restaurant to catch the next Preds game. Jasper's is located on West End Avenue and offers a fun atmosphere with a game room, TVs, and a large bar and lounge area. Plus they offer free parking. That's right, free parking on West End, and offer specials for every Preds game day, including $10 smash burgers and $3 bottle domestics. So come on down to Jasper's next game day for happy hour every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. and 2-for-1 beers all day on Sundays. Just tell them that Robbie Stanley sent you.
For the love of Tennessee at dawn. For the love of the fight. For the love of having nowhere else you'd rather be. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Meshing journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company 1025 The Game. Join 1025 The Game tomorrow night for the Preds Bud Light watch party at Headquarters Beercade. Drink specials, enter to win Preds tickets, and watch the Preds take on the Tampa Bay Lightning at Nissan Stadium. It's the Preds Bud Light watch party at Headquarters Beercade, located at 114 2nd Avenue South, downtown. Puck drops at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Now, we were just discussing the best way for the Titans to build their roster holes through the offseason. You look at free agency, you look through the draft, and TD said you gotta get a tight end in free agency, which I agree with him there, because you need a tight end that can play right now. You need to contribute right now, because we saw this past season, tight end is a pretty important position.
Does wonders in the red zone.
That it does. And I think that's exactly what Ryan Tannehill was missing this past season, is a reliable red zone tight end. And Corey Curtis mentioned trading back in the first round, or trading that first round pick, picking up more picks so you can add depth pieces right away. Mm-hmm. That's one philosophy that I don't have a problem with whatsoever, because that was one of my concerns with what TD said was grab a tight end in free agency, pick up everything else in the draft. Titans only have 5 picks in this year's draft. Traded 1 away for the Isaiah Wilson pick, 1 away for Julio Jones. Titans are only left with 5 picks. And when you're picking in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, how reliable can those guys be? So I don't have a problem with trading back in the first round. But there was one scenario that was brought up with Trevor Maddich yesterday that, you can't guarantee that this guy will be there at 26. You're going to have to trade that pick at some point. But if this guy's available at 26 and the Titans trade that pick and don't take advantage of him being there, especially with him coming off of an injury, the John Robinson special, I'm going to be really upset at the Titans not taking this opportunity. This is what Trevor Maddich had to say about this wide receiver in the draft.
I mean, Jameson Williams is a guy out of Alabama who tore his ACL.
And we know how the Titans feel about ACLs in the draft.
Yeah. And I tell you what, if he's available at 26, if I'm the Titans, I'd want to take him if I'm thinking long-term, because you don't know how much he's going to help in 2022, but he's going to be a deep threat and an elite one in the NFL after that. And he may help, especially in the second half of 2022, because he can run and track that ball down the field. And that's all they'd really need him to do, is make those safeties stay deep. The thing about the Titans, though, is that, they want to maximize Derrick Henry for the next couple of years. And so they may need a wide receiver right now who can step in right now.
I mean, that's my thing, is step in right now. Jameson Williams coming off of an ACL injury. Is he the best candidate to contribute right now? Maybe not right away, at least some point in the season. But what do we know about John Robinson? He loves him some injured players. He loves some value picks. So I would hate to see John Robinson pass on Jameson Williams, because I think that is the piece that the Titans need. And whatever you think the Titans should do with Julio moving forward, cut him, keep him, cut him after June 1st. If you're going to cut him, you have to do it after June 1st. Save about $9 million there. I mean, I personally subscribe to the belief that the Titans just hold on to Julio. But I'm done with having any expectations for what Julio Jones can do. I'm done with this belief that the Titans have some three-headed monster in A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Julio Jones on offense. Julio Jones does nothing for me. Jameson Williams, on the other hand, he'd be a value pick in which John Robinson absolutely loves. He could be available at 26 because he is coming off of an injury. Jameson Williams was one of the best wide receivers in this class, was one of the best wide receivers in college football this past year. He could contribute as soon as he is healthy. He could come in and contribute right away. I love me some Jameson Williams. And if he's there at 26, you got to take him and then figure out everything else out later in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Oh, if he falls in your lap. And, like, here's the thing, too, is I'm so on board with, I guess, the Julio skepticism. And I feel like you kind of have to run this year on the assumption he's going to miss at least 6-7 games. You know, I plan for him to play 10 to 11. And the way to not have to rely on him would be to get someone like Jameson Williams, someone who might do a better job of stretching the defense and like putting pressure on the opposing team's safeties, to where maybe that interception in the Bengals game where Jesse Bates read Tannehill like a book and knew that the range was only so far, and to jump the route, pick it off, might not happen as much if you have to pay attention to Williams on the other side of the field. Not many wide receivers in this draft, Caroline, averaged 20 yards a catch in the SEC. This guy was a weapon. And honestly, like, I think Alabama probably could have beaten Georgia if he doesn't go down, because Georgia's secondary couldn't stay in front of those guys. I mean, it was a track meet on the outside that Georgia was losing on the perimeter each and every time. Jameson Williams was a big difference maker. And I think he's probably, in terms of like the modern NFL, where like speed is currency and speed kills, Jameson Williams is exactly the kind of receiver that you need. And this is a draft that's like loaded with talent too. I mean, we talked about it in the break, like Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, Chris Olave from Ohio State.
Chris Olave's another one.
Drake
Traylon
London
Burks.
from USC. Yeah, I love Traylon Burks too. Maybe not the same kind of receiver as Jameson Williams, but Jameson Williams is that kind of guy that just like kills you with speed. And I feel like that would really, what that adds to this offense makes it to where you don't have to rely on Julio Jones. So we're not like sitting here being like, oh, well, the Titans couldn't win because they have no receiver depth because Julio missed 7 games and we're throwing the ball to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine like 10 times a game. Now, that's a little bit of hyperbole, but like, you know what I'm saying, though.
But
like,
it's a realistic scenario. And I've heard so many excuses of, well, what do you expect Brian Tannehill to do whenever he's got, you know, Mason Kinsey and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine to throw to? Well, fix that. Because if the Titans are going to stick with Brian Tannehill, which it seems like they are committed to doing, you have to give him multiple threats to throw to. Because when he doesn't have an immediate look at A.J. Brown, and let's be completely honest, A.J. Brown has dealt with a good bit of injuries on his own. And A.J. Brown has missed a few games now. And if he's going to be signed to a big-time deal, which I can only expect the Titans are going to do, I mean, he's an incredibly important part to this offense. He's a key cog of this offense. But you don't need just one A.J. Brown. You don't need just one threat, because it's going to be it never hurts. So, I mean, if Jameson Williams is available at 26, you cannot trade back that pick.
Yeah.
I understand collecting picks, and especially in this draft where, I mean, you have a bunch of needs to address immediately. But I love me some Jameson Williams.
My favorite part about it, too, Caroline, we talked about it, because the importance of landing these picks is that they land right away because of the urgency of the window you're in. Whichever Matic say, he can help you right away. And I think that's a very important part of this equation, too, where it's not as much a risk. I don't think the Titans planned on Isaiah Wilson helping right away. They sure as hell didn't draft Caleb Farley this past year with the intention of him helping right away. The help coming right away, and even if it comes at the expense of not trading back for a couple second, third round picks, which could be valuable if you use them wisely, I think is every bit the plus as it is of what they've done in the past. They just get this help now. It also takes less for like what you're gonna have to do in free agency to make up for that too.
And I think you also have to look at, what philosophy do you subscribe to? Do you draft for need or you draft the best player available? Because I think in the past, the Titans have drafted for need and left a lot of really good players on the board. Yeah. And what happens when you don't draft those players? You play against those players. So, I mean, if Jameson Williams is available, and maybe he's out for the first 4 or 5 games of the season. We've seen that's not something that John Robinson is afraid of doing, seeing as though Caleb Farley played all of 5 seconds. It's hyperbole. But I mean, it just seems like a slam dunk to me to do it and to draft the best player available. Jameson Williams is on the board. He's got to be up there with being the best player available. And I know a lot of fans won't be in love with the idea of drafting an offensive lineman in the first round. It's not a sexy pick.
Never is.
But if that's the best player available, then you got to do it. But if it's wide receiver or offensive lineman in the first round, I think that's drafting for need and also potential. If your go-to is if it's Chris Olave, if it's Treylon Burks, I doubt Treylon Burks will be available that late in the first round. But if he's there, you got to take those guys.
It's top 10 talent. It's top 10 talent that can help you right away. He tore his ACL, in January? I mean, realistically, he could be back by the start of the season. He could absolutely be back by the start of the season. We've seen people recover from more or from worse injuries in less time. You don't ever want to rush it, of course, but there's a really good chance that he is helping you right away. And if you're getting top 10 talent out of that to add to your offense, which we complained about the depth because that was very detrimental to them, especially late in the season on offense, it's hard to pass that up. It's very hard to pass that up.
And there's another thing here is I complained so much about the Caleb Farley pick because I was so anti-drafting an injured player. But I want to address that before I get the pancake accusations of flip-flopping. An ACL tear is so incredibly different than a back surgery.
Yeah, it's not 1970 anymore.
No, like an ACL tear at this point feels like it's almost like a rite of passage in the football world. Yeah. Like, ACLs tear, things happen. Joe Burrow came off of an ACL tear and then brought his team to the Super Bowl. So an ACL tear versus a back injury or a spinal injury, a spinal surgery, those are two very completely different things. So anti the Caleb Farley pick because of a spinal injury, totally for Jameson Williams because it's an ACL injury. Can pop right back up.
No one's ever said I used to have a bad back.
That's
Tim
fair.
Hasselbeck said that on Darren Donick and Chase last year. And you know what? There's a lot of truth to that. I don't know of anyone that's ever had back problems that, you know what? One procedure and I am done. I feel great. This
Instantly
back is fantastic.
Solved.
Yeah, never happens. You never hear that.
615-737-1025. We'll take your calls and your texts on the Titans drafts, also on the Pecorine retirement ceremony. We hit on that earlier in the show. So all of that is on the board. Get your texts in now, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, got a pretty big game in Nashville this weekend. We'll take a look at the Stadium Series game and what that means for this franchise. Is this the biggest week in the history of the Predators franchise? We'll get into that coming up next. Stillman and Company, Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell in for Jared Stillman today. ESPN 105 The Game.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings from 5 to 9.
Did you see the Tennessee Titans? He has all the weapons to make it happen.
There's so much to pay attention to.
Greeny from 9 to 11.
Ryan Tannehill is the most disrespected player.
Art and Han from 11 to 2.
You never stop punching. They've got to learn how to close the deal.
And the Paul Feinbaum Show afternoons from 2 to 6.
Are these legitimate contenders to the party?
Your exclusive home for ESPN Radio in the Music City.
ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
The 2022 SEC Women's Basketball Tournament is back in Nashville as Bridgestone Arena hosts the annual celebration of SEC's Women's Hoops March 2nd through the 6th. Join us and experience the bright lights of the Music City as we crown a champion. Tickets are on sale now, so contact your university ticket office or head to secsports.com. SEC women's basketball. It just means more.
At Genesis Diamonds, it's not just a new year. It's a new opportunity to bring you more choices, more value, more ways to celebrate your love. So we've expanded our selection of exquisite hand-picked diamonds from a half carat to 15 carats, all shapes, all sizes, all at our famous no middleman prices. We've brought in even more exclusive designer jewelry, new cutting-edge fashion-forward rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, and pendants. We have the styles and looks on every woman's wish list, things you can't find anywhere else. And for 2022, Genesis is now offering a truly spectacular collection of luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces. We have all the most popular styles in stock with no wait list and no restrictions. Is this the year you reward yourself with a premier name and timepieces? Come to Genesis in 2022 and let our non-commissioned experts help you celebrate those important milestones. We guarantee the best value, the highest quality, and the strongest warranties and guarantees in the jewelry industry. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolex timepieces. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Your home value is way up. You can use that money now to pay off credit cards or remodel your house, or both. Hey, Willie Donner for Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can convert that home equity into cash as little as 2 weeks from now with no cost to you and zero hassle. Mike and Joan in Brentwood called Loan Pronto and they did a Loan Pronto zero cost cash out refi. They got a check for $100,000. They used $50,000 to pay off all of their credit cards and a car loan. Use the other $50K to upgrade their master bath and kitchen. They locked in a new APR in the twos and lowered their total monthly bills by hundreds of dollars. Hello? What are you waiting on? Call Loan Pronto now and convert your home value into cash. Put that money to good use. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780 or lowpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
Hey, it's Elijah Campbell from Darren, Donick, and Chase, and I got my radio start right here as an intern at ESPN 1025 The Game. It was an excellent experience, and we're now looking for new interns. If you think that's you, go ahead and send your resume over to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, TriStar Movers with 5-star service. We are live from the Hillside Medical Game Studio. Caroline Fenton with Elijah Campbell filling in for Jared Stillman today. We are breaking down the draft. What's the best way for the Titans to address their needs in this draft? Trevor Maddich said Jameson Williams with an ACL tear could scare some other teams off. He could fall in the draft and could potentially lay in the laps of the Tennessee Titans. And if we've learned anything about the Tennessee Titans, what do they love drafting in the first round?
Injured players.
Injured players. But you know what? I am totally here for it. If that means that Jameson Williams, torn ACL and all, could be in the two-tone blue in the fall, you know what? Give it to me.
I'm here for the aesthetics of that offense.
I'm
here
for it. I'll get to your thoughts on the draft in just a moment, but I do want to address something that's pretty big going down in Nashville this weekend. The Stadium Series game going down tomorrow. Tampa Bay Lightning coming into Nashville, taking on the Predators at Nissan Stadium. And I was reading a bunch of articles throughout the week about the Stadium Series game, and I think it's the biggest testament to how much the game of hockey has grown in the city of Nashville and in the state of Tennessee. We talked so much about Pekka Rinne in the first segment and how it was so fitting that Pekka Rinne's jersey was the first one to be retired to the Nashville Predators. I was okay with a statue of Pekka Rinne being erected in front of Bridgestone Arena because normally I'm pretty anti-statue because that guy better be pretty darn great. But I thought it was fitting for Pekka Rinne because he was the difference maker. He brought so much success to this team and put hockey on the map in the city of Nashville. And I think that his jersey being retired last night and the Stadium Series game being tomorrow is so fitting because I think the Stadium Series game is the biggest testament to the growth of the game of hockey in the state of Tennessee, because all eyes are going to be on Predators hockey at Nissan Stadium in downtown Nashville. And that kind of thing doesn't happen unless people are interested in the game of hockey here in Nashville. It doesn't happen unless the Predators are on the map as a respected hockey club. So I have to say, I mean, I think that the Stadium Series game is such a huge testament to the growth of the game of hockey in the state and the city.
It's such a feather in the cap of what the city's built as like a hockey town. And I want to use the term hockey town in quotations because that's like a coveted term for, the people up in Detroit, Red Wings fans and everything. And it's like for the longest time, this is a non-traditional hockey market. Like you hear a lot of those terms float around about Nashville, but like the way the city reacted to hosting an all-star game, to having the Stanley Cup final here. And I mean, the coolest part about things like that was like Charles Barkley was going on pregame shows talking about how cool the atmosphere was, how cool a hockey atmosphere is in Nashville, Tennessee. Charles Barkley.
Yeah,
people on national hockey broadcasts.
Charles Barkley didn't care about hockey.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was such a spectacle, and then how the city has reacted to having a team the way they have, the atmospheres at Bridgestone Arena. I mean, I personally know some people who have who live in other hockey markets, but they love to come to Nashville games because of the atmosphere at Bridgestone Arena. Not just in, like Nashville itself. The city is one thing, but the city inside the city of the Smashville. The unincorporated city inside the city has given the Predators not just like an amazing home ice advantage, but has given this place a reputation of a quote unquote hockey town or something more of like a different take on a non-traditional hockey market. Having this here and having the national spotlight on it, it's a slam dunk for the NHL because you know how it's gonna do TV ratings wise. You know how it's gonna do when it comes to selling tickets for this thing. You know, the atmosphere is going to be electric. It was an easy choice for the NHL for all of those reasons. And I think like the thing I'm excited for too is I love these outdoor games because the aesthetic of it, but it's just going to be really cool to see that at a place like Nissan Stadium. I mean, we've wanted outdoor games here. We talked about outdoor games here on this station in this market for 5 or 6 years. I mean, like it's been overdue to the point like the city has proven it can do it because of how it did the All-Star game and the spectacle the Stanley Cup final was when it was here in 2017.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that you look at the kind of the history of some events that have gone down in Nashville. You look at the All-Star game in 2016. It's all kind of been leading up to a big event like this. I mean, Stanley Cup final obviously is going to be, the biggest stage in hockey. However, all of that has kind of led up to all of the anticipation, all the excitement, and the one game that the NHL can kind of turn their heads to of like, this is a really cool event that we did this year. It's taking place in our backyard. And that doesn't happen without, for example, Pekka Rinne putting that team on the map. That doesn't happen
Very much so.
without the Predators continuing to do what they can to make hockey relevant and maintain relevancy in this state and in this city. And I think the Stadium Series game is absolutely the marquee event of that. That, hey, we've been working up to this for so long, did the Winter Classic in Dallas, and now here it is in Nashville, and I think that's very cool.
Love the nationally televised stage.
Yep.
And I love the promotion of the star power too. Like one of the reasons why Nashville grew, we talked about Pekka Rinne, and that's why one of the reasons why I love the ceremony being right before this game is because you don't get these kind of games if it weren't for your first foundational stars. And Pekka Rinne was the foundational superstar of this franchise. If it's not for that foundation, you don't get the cool stuff like this, I mean, if Seattle never takes off, they're never any good. They're not going to get cool games like this because they don't have marketable stars. Like Nashville as a city is obviously a destination point. And in the NHL, whether it be media members, opposing teams, like it is a destination city to come watch games. Everyone's excited to come see a game in Nashville. I already alluded to the atmosphere at Bridgestone Arena. But without the stars, without your Pekka Rinnes, the Shea Webbers in the past, even the PK Subban. I think the best part of the PK Subban trade was the amount of attention Nashville got from it and helped it become like kind of what it is Now, all of that, like that kind of star power that you need to be able to host events like this and get people to watch it. The Preds have that now. Roman Yossi's the best defenseman in the sport. I feel pretty confident saying that. UC Saros is a top 5 goalie in the game this year. He has proven that. And I think that amount of star power makes this game not just aesthetically pleasing, but it is a sexy matchup because of the stars on this end also playing against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And that might be my favorite part of this game, honestly, the more I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is like everyone knows the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. I mean, absolute juggernaut in the NHL. And that's another caveat that I want to get to coming up next. And also, my question for Elijah, my question for the callers, the texters, the listeners, is this the biggest event in franchise history? And is this week the biggest week in Predators franchise history? We'll get into that coming up next. We'll also take your phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Stillman & Company, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Tune in every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. for Nashville's own Jason Fitz with Jarrett Stillman & Company. Fitz started his sports talk career right here on 1025 The Game, and now he anchors shows for ESPN. Jason Fitz is brought to you by Blood Assurance. Give blood. Give local. Give life.
Walk in the footsteps of civil rights heroes and visionaries on the Mississippi Freedom Trail and experience their stories at the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. Learn more at visitmississippi.org/Black History.
It's the official Bud Light Preds watch party as the Nashville Predators take on the Tampa Bay Lightning this Saturday night. Puck drops at 6:30, but the party starts at 6 with all kinds of specials. See you at headquarters, Beercade, downtown Nashville on 2nd Avenue. Go Preds!
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. I started my first business in the basement of a factory over 30 years ago. We had no heat and no air conditioning. Instead of customers, our office visitors were rats, birds, flies, and snakes. Our office flooded often, and we used blankets as our office walls. We were broke and needed help. That's why I created Patriot Software, to help small business owners with simple payroll for 1 to 100 employees. And if you need help, we will help you for free. Go to PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll processing free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Add a little excitement to your sports watching experience and make every moment more betting all the action on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. There's a reason why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Their app is simple to use, and they've got great odds on all different betting markets, unique fun bet types like same-game parlays, and exclusive always-on promotions like enhanced odds boosts on the biggest events to let you get more action out of every game day. They've got a great range of betting options and live betting so you can place your bet during the middle of a game. And right now, FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Seriously, there's no strings attached. Just place any bet you want. If you win, keep the cash. If you lose, you'll get your entire bet up to $1,000 back in site credit. If you've never tried FanDuel Sportsbook, what are you waiting for? Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and get started with promo code JGM so they know that I sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code JGM. 21 and older and present Tennessee. First online real money wager only. Refund issues, non-withdrawable site credit expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789.
Attention veterans of Middle Tennessee. Little Guys Movers wants to put your hard-earned skills and leadership talent to work with your very own Little Guys Movers franchise. Be your own boss and build a team with standards as high as your own, and all while serving your community with the same hustle that you served your country. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Start a fulfilling, profitable new chapter of your life as a member of a team with 30-plus years of growth and good times at LittleGuysFranchise.com. That's LittleGuysFranchise.com.
Interact with Stillman & Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
I don't think it necessarily adds pressure. You know, these are the games that, I mean, if we want to be a good team down the stretch, you have to play your best in high stakes games. You know, whether they're hyped up games or highly competitive games or rivalry games, nationally televised games, whatever it is, if you're going to be a team that's going to be able to do anything, you have to play your best when the stakes are the highest and the stage is high. And I think it's a great opportunity for us. I mean, this was a game, was going to be a sold out building against a team we're neck and neck with in the standings. There's going to be a lot of television coverage with it because it's Peck's retirement. Now you're coming in, you're playing the, defending Stanley Cup champions in the first outdoor game with a lot of things going on around, a lot of buzz around the city. You guys have families and friends in. There's a lot of talk about what's going on, but the challenge is you want to embrace it. But I think it's a great experience for our team to go through and find ways to win and compete and see what it's going to take to win in these situations, because ultimately those are the teams that are good late in seasons and have success in the playoffs.
The bigger the stakes, the bigger the stage, the more pressure there is to win. And this week, there have been some pretty high stakes and pretty big stages for the Predators. You look at last night. I mean, that kind of felt... I don't like using the term must-win games because I don't think that there really are many games that are absolute must-wins. But last night was a game that the Predators really needed to win. It's Peck and night. You need momentum moving forward going into the Stadium Series game. You need those points going into the playoffs. But that doesn't end there because the stage only gets bigger. There are only more eyes on the Stadium Series game. But, I mean, it's been a big week for the Nashville Predators. So I asked before the break, is the Stadium Series game the biggest event in franchise history? And I think there's absolutely an argument that you could make. I mean, obviously bringing the team here. And, of course, the Stanley Cup, the 2017 Cup run. Those are all marquee events that you could circle and say those were defining moments in Predators history. Can I say that this one in particular, the Stadium Series game, is the biggest event in franchise history? I think you could make an argument. I wouldn't say so. I think the Cup run has to take precedent. Mm-hmm. However, there's totally an argument that you could make. National eyes on this game at Nissan Stadium, huge stage. I've seen so many Tampa Bay Lightning fans, beep-bopping around downtown. I mean, there's absolutely an argument that you could make that this is a top event in Predators history.
I have it up there. So during the break, I made like a little mini list. And of course, I like excluding the Stanley Cup final for
That's a
obvious
gimme.
reasons.
That's an obvious one.
Yeah, and then like obviously the first game. And there's like those obvious milestones, I feel like, that are in the class of their own.
Uh-huh. All-Star game.
I actually included the All-Star game because that was my number one. Even though it wasn't a Preds game, I think that was the first time that Nashville as a hockey city was really put in the spotlight, in like a national spotlight. I know the NHL draft was here. I have that number 4. So I have All-Star game 1, this outdoor game, the Stadium Series game tomorrow, going to be 2.
Okay.
Pecorine retirement ceremony 3, and then NHL draft 4. In terms of the NHL draft came before all those, but like, as big as that is, because it also proves that you can hold these type of NHL events, it's not the same thing like the television spectacle the NFL or NBA draft are. Mm-hmm. Like the MLB and the NHL draft are very similar in terms of they're not made for TV events.
The NFL draft is an event.
Yeah, exactly. Like when your draft is so big that you have to limit one night for the first round alone, you are a made-for-TV spectacle. Yes. And that's like what the NFL is. The NHL's not that.
The outfits and the pomp and circumstance and the boats that the draftees were going to ride up in whenever the draft was going to be constructed that way. It is an event, a spectacle, a moneymaker, and eyes want to be on that. NHL draft, not as much.
Not as much, yeah. The substance is more important than the hoopla around it.
Right.
But it is significant that the Preds got that to be hosted here in Nashville. The Pecorine retirement and Stadium Series was really close. Like last night was special. Last night was really, really neat to celebrate like your first megastar. You know, the first player to lead you to a Stanley Cup final, the first player to win you a major individual player award. That's special, and that's special in its own right. And I'm obsessed with the fact that they did this in back-to-back games. Like, that's really cool. You set yourself up for a really cool week like that. But that game was not in the national spotlight as much as this outdoor game is going to be. It's going to be on TNT. It's going to, I mean, the outdoor games are special because like they're one of my favorites because it's something about watching outdoor hockey, like, fascinates me. Like, aesthetically, it's such a cool thing.
It's very cool. And it's not something that you see every day. I mean, you think hockey, you think indoor sport. It's a special event. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the specialty of that kind of gives me why I put it that high and kind of in that regard. And then the All-Star game, I don't think we get this if the All-Star game wasn't such a success or they didn't knock it out of the park with the All-Star game, with the All-Star game festivities and how well the city responded to getting that All-Star game. I think that being what opened the door to a lot of these events gives that the edge for me. So I'm leaning All-Star game here, but this is number 2.
I think that's another very fair point is the response from the city. Because, I mean, these kind of events don't call if the fans in the city doesn't answer. You look at the NFL draft. I wasn't here, but pictures and watching the draft and seeing the coverage, holy moly.
Oh, it was insane.
Absolutely insane. And, of course, that's the NFL draft, and that's going to be a huge deal. But not every city looks like that during the NFL draft. You mentioned the All-Star game. Not every city looks like that. I've already seen festivities start to go down. I've seen Preds jerseys and Lightning jerseys walking around downtown. And I've seen Broadway kind of look like little Tampa Bay a little bit already. I mean, festivities are getting started. So these things don't fall into your lap unless your city is tailored for it. Unless you know that the city will respond in a positive way. Unless the NHL knows and has seen it, like, hey, we know if we have a big event, Nashville is a spot for it. So I think that's a huge feather in the Predators' cap. Another question I have, is this the biggest week in franchise history? And I have to say yes. Because
in terms of regular seasons,
two of the biggest events in Predators' history are going down this week. Retiring the very first jersey ever in franchise history, retiring the jersey of the player who really put this team on the map, a player that's beloved by the team, by the fans, by the franchise, retiring his jersey. And then you have the first outdoor hockey game in the state's history against the defending Stanley Cup champion. I have to say, this is the biggest week in Predators franchise history. I haven't been here very long. But if you look at the events and you look at the gravity of the events, what it means not just to the team, but to the sport, to the NHL, to the league, I mean, these are some big-time events.
I really don't think you're off base at all there. Because, like, here's the thing. In an 82-game regular season, like, obviously when we're talking about this, we're excluding the obvious, which are playoff runs, Stanley Cup final. Like, we're excluding all that because in an 82-game regular season, like, the season can get a little dull at times. It can get monotonous. It's not a knock on the product. This is not a knock on the sport. The NBA, it's the same way in the NBA. In the MLB, double it in terms of how stale, I guess, some of it can get because the seasons are just so long. And, like, I understand why the seasons are this long. Makes a ton of money. Totally get it. But, like, it can get a little monotonous, a little stale in an 82-game regular season where you're playing 2 or 3 games a week. It's hard to get up for all of those games. As someone, Ian can attest to this too. We produce the radio broadcasts. Like, there are games where you are so mentally checked out in the second period of this game because you don't know if it's really that meaningful. The Preds are playing, I don't know, the San Jose Sharks on the road. It's 10:30, and you're like, is anyone actually listening to this game right now?
December hockey can get monotonous.
And that happens so frequently that when you get a week like this, it really, like, the fact that we're even talking about this, I think makes it the biggest week in regular season Preds history because the one game that is not a specialty game was the Florida Panthers game in which you're playing arguably the best scoring team in hockey in a game in which you had to have with a backup goalie. The weight and the gravity of that win, compounded with the pregame festivities last night, the manner in which they won in a shootout, and then leading up to a Stadium Series game against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion. Like, we might not have a regular season like this for a long... Like this, the regular season has meant more this week than it has in a long time. At least that I can remember. Maybe it's... And I don't think it's just recency bias, because these are 3 massive games against really good teams with special things attached to them that you're not getting every night. There's not a retirement or jersey retirement ceremony every night. It's not an outdoor game every night. And these games usually aren't always against the best of the best of the best like they have been this week. So I don't think you're off base at all when we make that assumption.
Let's go to your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a thought, is this the biggest week in Predators franchise history? Larry texts in and says, no, it is one game. It's a fun event, but nothing compares to playing in the Cup Final Series. By the way, their uniforms for this are terrible. Just the first part. I understand that competing for a championship is probably going to take precedence of anything that happens.
And that's why we excluded it. Yeah, we prefaced it with Outside of playoffs and cup runs.
Outside of cup runs, because that's why you play these games, is to eventually hoist the Stanley Cup at the end of the season. Totally understand that. Competing for a Stanley Cup is going to take precedence over anything, especially the 2017 run, the very first time that the Predators were really, the first time and the only time since that the Predators were Stanley Cup contenders. So I get it, yes. But outside of that, I don't think it is just one game. Because, I mean,
it's a spectacle.
Any game is just one game. You could say, 2 weeks ago was just one game. I get it. Those are, regular games at Bridgestone Arena. They're on the schedule. Those are things on your to-do list that you have to check off. Yes, it's a game. It's more than that. It's more than just one game. I mean, I'll attribute it to college football, for example. The Iron Bowl is just one game. It's a game that's on Auburn and Alabama's schedule every year.
Every bit as important to their season as the Arkansas game.
Every bit as important as Mercer to Alabama. But that's not like Mercer, and that's not like Arkansas, and it's not like playing Mississippi State. That game is different because it has different implications. The environment is different. The lead up to it is different. The feel around the game is different. And that's what this game on Saturday is. That's what the Stadium Series game is. Yeah, it's a game. It's a regular season game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But it's in Nissan Stadium, and the feel is different. The environment is different. The lead-up is different. I mean, a regular season game against the Vancouver Canucks doesn't have a party downtown. It doesn't have Miranda Lambert and Dierks Bentley headlining it.
Correct.
So, yeah, it's a game, but it's not just a game. It's an event. It's a spectacle, and it's a spectacle that you would not get if your hockey team and your franchise didn't earn it.
It's one of 82, but it's the one of 82, or one of the ones of 82.
An important one of 82.
Like, and that's the thing is, like, I would like to still, like, acknowledge, like, how cool this game is. Like, we get it. It's the regular season. But my biggest shout out to the Preds is for having this schedule fall like this, to where you made a regular season week not feel like a regular season week where you're playing Tuesday at home against the Vancouver Canucks, or Thursday you're playing on the road against the Sharks, and then a LA Kings game on Saturday. Like, it's not that kind of week. Like, we get there's so many weeks in an 82 game season that it feels like Groundhog Day,
Right.
But like
same stuff, different day.
But like, you don't get these kind of weeks in the NHL or the NBA very often, especially when you are not a major market. Like, that stuff doesn't happen every week. Like this, like, it's really cool to enjoy a week of regular season hockey that feels like playoff hockey. And that's like the best part of it. Like, these are all Tuesday's game was one of 82. Last night's game was one of 82. Tomorrow's game is one of 82. But like, these are three very exciting playoff feel games that you don't normally get even in the month of February.
And to the second part of Larry's text, by the way, the uniforms for this are terrible. When I first saw the picture, I'm going to be real honest, wasn't a big fan. Didn't love it. They're growing on me.
Are they growing on you?
I like the Stadium Series jerseys. I bought one. And they're kind of growing on me. I like them. They're different. I love the Winter Classic jerseys.
Those are sexy.
Those are sexy. Those are they're better. Those are my favorite Predators jersey. But I do have to say, kind of like the Stadium Series jerseys. That might be a bit of a hot take, but once I saw them in person, they're growing on me.
It's growing on me a little bit. My only edit would be I don't like the Smashville in the middle. I think if you just take that and have the TriStar there, just make it a little simple. I thought they might have done it a little too much.
Interesting.
But if you put that TriStar there with the same yellow stripe around the middle, I think you have yourself a masterpiece.
I understood that it wasn't separated Smashville.
Yeah.
You could just fit Smashville all in one. You know, if you can, like the Winter Classic jerseys, they could fit Nashville Predators on, two separate lines.
Right.
Like, you could fit Smashville on one line. But
change the font.
Change the font. I kind of like the font, like the concert poster font. I kind of like that.
Yeah, okay, I
a nice
think about it like that.
hat tip to the city and to the culture of the city. Kind of growing on me. I don't know.
I love the color scheme. That's my favorite part. A nice dark navy with the hint of gold on there. Like the stripe, at first I didn't like, but the more I look at it, I'm like, that's where you got it right.
Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I think, I think they're going to look nice on the ice, and that's really the most important thing is how they look on the ice.
Exactly. People talk about it like it's some atrocity. I don't think it's I think there was that one change that I mentioned, but other than that, I wouldn't change anything. It actually looks a lot better than I thought it would.
I think it's fine. Larry's being a grump about it. 615-737-1025. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Stadium Series. We talked a bit of Titans draft. Your thoughts on the draft. Jameson Williams, I say if he's there at 26, you take him. Your thoughts on that as well. But coming up next, there's one caveat to this. As cool as outdoor hockey is, it makes me a little bit nervous. It might be the worry wart in me, or it may be a legitimate concern. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline Fenton, Elijah Campbell in for Jared Stillman. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
This is Phil Tomasino, and this is Smashville.
Cousins put it in front of the score. Tomasino walks it in. 2-0 Nashville.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Coheed and Cambria. A window of the Waking Minds tour with special guests Dance, Kevin Dance, and Mathika. Coheed and Cambria, live in concert. Nashville Municipal Auditorium, Saturday, July 23rd. Get tickets now at livenation.com. For more, visit coheedandcambria.com.
Customize your ride at Tent World of Goodlettsville's Customer Appreciation Event, Saturday, March 5th. Check out Tent World's vinyl wrap, paint protection film, automotive alarms, car stereos, remote start, ceramic coating, and much more. Plus Tent World's affordable window tinting. Tent World, 500 South Main Street in Goodlettsville. Join Tent World of Goodlettsville for food, fun, and prizes, Saturday, March 5th.
Golfers, tee it up this year at Edwin Watts Golf Shops for the hottest new arrivals from Callaway. Featuring the new Rogue ST drivers, Callaway's most stable driver ever, with tungsten speed cartridge, jailbreak speed frame, and AI flash face. Engineered for max speed and forgiveness. 4 different models to fit every golfer's needs. Think speed? Go Rogue. Swing by Edwin Watts Golf Shops and get custom fit for the new Rogue ST drivers today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee, and shop us online at worldwidegolfshops.com.
When you work here at Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station, you're joining a really great bunch of people. We care about each other, and we care about our customers. It shows in everything we do, day in, day out. And 2 of our teammates are celebrating anniversaries this month, and we want to salute them. Drew Chester on our sales team has been with us for 4 years, and Elijah Campbell, the producer of our midday show on 102.5 The Game, is celebrating 3 years. Thanks, Drew and Elijah, for all that you do, and for making Cromwell Media such a great place to work.
Bank of England Mortgage has been helping Americans live the dream of home ownership for over 100 years. Since their humble beginnings in England, Arkansas in 1898, they've grown into a nationwide mortgage lender with 141 offices across 45 states, including 3 convenient locations right here in Middle Tennessee. Find out more at BOE1214.com. Bank of England Mortgage is a division of Bank of England Mortgage. Equal housing lender, member FDIC, NMLS 418-481.
Robbie Stanley.
Sometimes the overthinking that takes place, pretty mind-boggling.
Joe Rexroad.
Thought there was an issue. There's not an issue. There's no issue. They're doing wonderful.
Wake up and hang out with Robbie and Rexroad every weekday morning from 6 to 10.
Taking care of business this early in the morning.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I do not want to deprive people of a close-up of my face.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. ESPN's Turon Davenport breaks down the Titans like no other.
On the field chemistry, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a process.
Catch TD Mondays at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Fridays at 8. Plus, the Talking with TD podcast drops every Wednesday.
When you draft players, it's not just for one season, it's for a career.
Presented by FreedomTireGuys.com, Nashville's premier mobile tire company. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What's up, Nashville? This is Stephen A. Smith. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Well, I think it was a great day for the organization and obviously for Pekka. I think, you know, the way everything was done, the ceremony was first class and was great to be part of it and great to see it. Great for him and his family, great for the organization and you know, for the fans too. I think to be able to have that type of time spent on honoring him was really special, I think, for everybody involved. So that was that was great. And then I think tonight we knew it was going to be a hard fought game, and I give our guys a lot of credit. Sometimes you get in these situations, and it is. I mean, it's a different routine for the guys where you're on the bench for 50 minutes, and then you get off, and it's 15 minutes, and then you're back on the ice for warm up. So I thought it was a hard fought battle. We got great goaltending. I think we made some clutch plays. We knew coming into the game it was going to be a back and forth, hard fought game by both teams, and fortunately tonight we were able to get the 2 points.
It's a little bit more of a hard-fought game than I expected it to be last night. Predators beating the Stars 2-1 in a shootout last night. Didn't think it was going to come down to that. But I made the point earlier, and I stand by it. Just get a win. At this point in the season, get the points, get the win on Pekka night, keep the momentum rolling into the Stadium Series game. And that's what we're talking about, the Stadium Series game. Could this be the biggest regular season event in Predators history? It's up there. It's for sure up there. You can talk about the All-Star game. You can talk about the NHL draft, but it absolutely is up there in terms of impact and importance and keeping eyes and getting eyes on this sport in Nashville. But I have one, and I don't know if this is a rational or irrational concern going into the Stadium Series game. I'm really scared the ice is going to melt.
Because you're probably scarred from watching what happened in Lake Tahoe last year.
I think you're right.
Like,
watching what happened
concern
in Tahoe. But I'm also, like, a game, I don't remember when puck drop was, but in the middle of the day, peak sun. What are we doing there? Got to postpone the game because the ice is melting. They talked about the Winter Classic game in Dallas as well, that they got the ice all set up. And then the ice starts melting so much that, like, the lines and the logos were essentially just floating in the ice. This was a couple days before. I read this in an article in the Tennessean. The ice was just, essentially just dwindling down to the bare minimum. And I look at the weather throughout this entire week. I mean, rain and ice and weather above 32 degrees doesn't necessarily mesh. I have an irrational fear of the ice melting, all of this pomp and circumstance going on surrounding the game. They're going to have to move the game to Bridgestone Arena. All of these people are displaced.
That's a nightmare.
An absolute nightmare. I am no scientist. I don't want to be, and I'm glad I'm not. I'm glad I'm not the one in charge of making sure that, like, all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed for this game. And I'm sure there are plenty of people way smarter than I am that are taking care of the X's and O's of the ice, making sure that the ice needs to be where it is. I read that the largest refrigerating system in the world is cooling the ice, and the ice is at 2 inches thick instead of 3 inches, 3/4 of an inch thick that it normally is in Bridgestone. So they're doing their due diligence there. I just think that would be an absolute catastrophic nightmare if there's no ice. It doesn't matter that there's Miranda Lambert and Dierks Bentley and a party going on downtown and tailgates going on downtown and Tampa Bay Lightning fans flooding downtown Nashville. None of that matters. If there's no ice, there's no game.
Yeah, and that would definitely be embarrassing. I think the Lake Tahoe thing last year for the NHL was a little embarrassing. And I actually think one positive about the thing happening in Lake Tahoe last year is that the NHL will make damn sure that they are not going to throw the TV schedule off like that ever again. So I think that's why they're taking these extra precautions to make sure the ice is sustained, that it's not going to melt, and we are not going to have the ultimate worst-case scenario, which for Gary Bettman was having to postpone a game after one period because he can't keep the ice from melting. And that happened in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, yeah, the Tahoe game was rough.
That one was rough. I mean, you could tell, like, the funniest part about that was, like, you could tell, like, late in the first period, like, no one's able to stay up. Like, there's, like, these divots that are getting made in the ice, too, because it's melting, and, like,
There's a safety concern at
they're
that
playing
point.
in a Walmart icy. It almost looks like it was getting pretty rough for a little bit, and like the NHL is definitely going to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I'm pretty sure, I wonder how that changed, like, the discussions in the room on, like, what risks they're willing to take for locations for this game now. Like, I know it was very they didn't have any incidents when they played it in Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium.
Right.
They did a game out there. They didn't have any incidents out there. I wonder if they're maybe a little more hesitant to be like, okay, let's the Kings are good this year. Let's go play at Dodger Stadium again, even though they don't have to worry about that because the Kings have been bad enough to where they don't have to worry about it for a little bit. I think they want to put them on TV a lot. So I think that kind of helps the NHL a little bit, but it is, I'm 99.999% sure like the ice will be A-okay, but there is that sliver of a chance in my mind, or space in my mind, that always goes back to watching the Avs and Knights players just completely eat it on the ice time after time at the back end of that first period and completely ruin that game.
And a late puck drop does help, but I think that's the worrywart in me, and also the optimist in me kind of sees this as in a different light, because we heard last week that there are grumblings of perhaps a new Nissan Stadium. Building a new stadium. The renovations would have been way more expensive than they expected, potentially building a new Nissan Stadium, which opens up the possibility for an indoor stadium, for
the
retractable roof.
Yeah.
Thank you. For a retractable roof, for opening up so many more opportunities for events in a new Nissan Stadium. I mean, you're looking at a Super Bowl, you're looking at the Final Four, you're looking at all sorts of indoor events and indoor concerts, in addition to Bridgestone Arena as well. And I do look at this kind of marriage between Nissan Stadium and the Predators this year, that if there is a new Nissan Stadium in the future, and I have utmost optimism and trust that this will be a wonderfully executed event, that a new Nissan Stadium, a state-of-the-art stadium, a bright, shiny new Nissan Stadium just means more opportunities for the Predators and Nissan Stadium to collaborate in the future, even more eyes on the Predators in the future.
Oh, 100%. You could easily do that in a stadium like that, and it would seat even more people, which means you do an event like that, you're going to be making more money. And there's nothing wrong with making more money, because you're going to have to make a lot of money if you're going to be able to invest that kind of dough to get that stadium in the first place. Like, here's the thing too, it's going to be stupid expensive, but imagine what one Final Four would do in terms of making that up.
Oh, I mean, it's going to be expensive. But it's also, okay, the renovations are going to be expensive for Nissan Stadium as well. So are you just going to not renovate it and let it crumble? I mean, some of the concerns that were brought up in the initial report in the Axios article was like the foundation of the building. The windows were so outdated that the material that it's made of isn't even made anymore, isn't even produced anymore. So I think that's another thing that the game tomorrow at Nissan Stadium, while what it is on the surface level is really cool and really exciting for both parties involved in Nissan Stadium and the Predators, but also the grumblings of a new stadium just brings me so much optimism and excitement for the future of what could be. I mean, this event is awesome, and future events, if there is a new Nissan Stadium, opening up the door for so many more opportunities.
It could. The only thing that has concerned me, though, anytime you say foundational issues for anything, whether it be a stadium or my house or the building we work in, definitely gives you a little pause there.
I'm no architect. I'm not a construction expert. I don't claim to be, and the people that are, I will defer to you, but I don't like that.
I don't like that
one bit. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your calls, your texts coming up next. Your thoughts on the Stadium Series game. Philip Forsberg, what to do with his contract in the future. Talked a little bit of Titans. What do you want to see the Titans do in the draft? All of that is on the table. We'll get into that coming up next. Before we do that, I got to let y'all know that ESPN 1025 The Game is Nashville's official home of NASCAR. Tune in this Sunday at 1:30 p.m. for the Wise Power 400 at the Auto Club Speedway. Also, get set for the race with Chase and Checkers every Sunday at 8 a.m.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobus. Staying dry, but also staying cold going into the weekend. Overnight lows in the upper 20s and mainly cloudy. Those clouds stick around for Saturday. Cool high temperatures in the middle 40s and a chance for some scattered rain showers well after sunset tomorrow.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
Jared Stillman.
Football season, and then football season becomes hockey season, and then it becomes draft season, and then it becomes hockey playoff season.
And company.
Maybe this is something to just get people a little bit interested.
It's a matter of not having too many chefs in the kitchen.
Catch Stillman and Company on your drive home. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
And I can spot it from a mile away.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope.
Hey guys, it's the new year. Are you still struggling with erectile dysfunction? I've yet to meet anyone that enjoys timing those intimate moments around a pill. Well, now you don't have to. The advanced wave technology at Hillside Medical has been shown by Cambridge University and the Cleveland Clinic to restore and even regrow blood vessels. It can improve circulation and eliminate erectile dysfunction. No pills and no side effects. If you're ready to put a stop to your ED, call us in the next 2 minutes and you'll receive a consultation, assessment, and blood flow ultrasound free. Plus, a special gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. Trust me. This is a $600 value, free to callers now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, get rid of your ED and get that spark back. Call Hillside Medical now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
Sometimes their glass is half full.
That was unbelievable. It was the best NFL draft they've ever had.
Sometimes glass half empty.
What are we getting ourselves into here? Tough game.
And sometimes it's all about the numbers.
One win, and they've gone on this streak, and now they're at 500.
Hang out with Darren, Donick, and Chase from 10 to 2 during your workday. Presented by Curacion CBD on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
Stillman and Company is on. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Elijah, we promised the people phones, so if you don't have a thought, to the phones.
I'm ready to give the people what they want.
To the phones. Brian in Portland texts in on the NFL draft, on the Titans draft, says, if I'm John Robinson, I'm going Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, or I'm trading back. If you trade back, you'll be able to get at least a second, a third, and the seventh. At that point, I would get a slot receiver with the second offensive line with the third, and probably another offensive line with your other third. I mean, that's kind of what we outlined earlier in the show was Jameson Williams, I'm here for it. If Chris Olave drops that low, and that's another wide receiver that could come in and likely help you right away. I mean, I thought Chris Olave could have stepped into the NFL 2 seasons ago.
He could have made the leap, yeah. I don't know why his draft grade wasn't higher. I don't know if there's something I was missing there, but he was obviously a stud at Ohio State, fantastic deep threat. Guy is legit. And if he's there too, it's hard to pass up on him at 26 if he's there.
That is what I wonder is mock drafts I always take with a grain of salt because I do think there's a good bit of BS involved with mock drafts because, like, what do they know?
A lot of guessing.
A lot of guessing, a lot of speculation. But I do wonder because I haven't seen Chris Olave slotted to be in the top 10 in very many mock drafts. I do wonder what's going on there. What do we not know about Chris Olave? Because that, to me, felt like a slam dunk top 10 pick.
It kind of does. And Jameson Williams was one of those guys, too. It would if it wasn't for the injury. And, like, I thought Olave, like I said, last year, if he, like, I don't know if, was he draft eligible last year? No, I think he was draft eligible last year.
Was he?
He was a senior this year. He came back for a senior year.
A
rare 4-year college football guy that we're talking about as a slam dunk first-round pick. But, yeah, I think, like, even taking him 15, like top 15, like a mock I'm looking at right now has him taking 28 to Green Bay. I've seen some that have him mid-first, early first, like 11, 12, 13 range. I think it's a wide range, especially with this wide receiver class, because it is really deep. Like, before we even get to Jameson Williams and Chris Olave, like, Treylon Burks can get taken before those two guys, or after those two guys, or Garrett Wilson, the guy who lined up across or on the other side of the field from Chris Olave, is going to be one of the more highly touted wide receiver selections too. Like, it's a really good wide receiver class. Drake London from USC, another guy that I really enjoyed watching this past year, last couple of years. He's a weapon too. Like, there's some really good high-end wide receiver weapons that are probably going to be available at 26. And when it comes to trading back, if you're going to trade back, I kind of like the texter's idea too, that picking up offensive linemen there, because was Trevor Maddich said on these airwaves. Like, it's a deep offensive line class. And if it's that deep and you can find value in second and third rounds, trading back for more second and third round picks, if you believe they can step in right away and make an impact, I feel like that's going to help the team out pretty much, maybe not as much as getting an elite wide receiver, but it'll help out.
But, and I feel like the first round is obviously going to be your most important. I mean, that's your player that comes in and contributes immediately. Not necessarily for the Titans over the past couple of years, but ideally that's what it would be for your first round pick. A second round pick is nothing to scoff at. So if you want to address the wide receiver need in the first round, look at the offensive line for the second round. I think that was their intention this past year. But a second round pick is a guy that could be able to contribute right away. Of course, he's not your flashy quarterback that you take in the top 5. He's not your flashy pass rusher. He's not going to be your elite player, but a second round pick isn't anything to turn your nose up at. You know who was picked in the second round? Derrick Henry. You know who's picked in the second round for the Predators? Roman Yossi.
Yeah.
The second round pick has incredibly valuable talent. So to pick up a second round pick, to pick up a guy in the second round, ideally should be someone that can come and contribute for a long time.
Yeah, Kevin Byard, second round pick.
Second round pick.
A lot of value there.
Your second round picks are important. Sam texts into the text line and says, biggest miss was letting Trey Smith of UT slide to 6th and 7th round due to a heart issue. Should have taken a flyer on the guy. Home state, now permanent starter for the Chiefs. Hated seeing him slide as a projected second and third rounder. I mean, I think that's kind of been a thorn in almost every team except the Kansas City Chiefs side, is seeing Trey Smith, a guy who is a bona fide starter for the Kansas City Chiefs, slide that low because of health issues. And then you look at John Robinson, who's, totally fine with drafting players with health issues. I mean, I understand the concern with Trey Smith. I 100% understand the issue there.
I don't know if they had a huge place for him to play, though, this year, because they weren't going to bench Nate Davis or Roger Saffold for him. I wouldn't anticipate this season.
Right.
I guess it could have been a good depth pick.
A depth pick that you could pick up in
maybe
the 4th, 5th round.
Maybe he could help, this year, this upcoming season, or the season after. Maybe more of a long-term situation.
When you eventually have to let go of Saffold.
But, I mean, you knew Saffold was going to start left guard, and you knew Davis was going to start right guard. So you get Trey Smith, which obviously turned out to be a good pick for KC, but they had to completely rebuild their entire offensive line.
They needed it desperately.
And so
that Super Bowl,
I just don't. It's a good pick, and it's a good point from the texter, but I do wonder, if he would have really had a legit spot to get on the field at all this season.
Fair point. Fred in Ashland City texts in about Philip Forsberg and says, I've never understood the reasoning behind trading lots of assets for a player with an expiring contract. What if Forsberg doesn't want to sign where he is traded? Will a team really give up all of those assets for only half a season guaranteed?
Risk.
I mean, they're gonna work on a contract with Philip Forsberg if a trade is worked out. I mean, I don't think Philip Forsberg is going to go anywhere where he's not given the contract that he wants. If he doesn't stay with the Predators because the Predators won't give him the contract that he wants, I can probably assume it's in the ballpark of 8 years between 8 and 10 million, because that's kind of the market for a forward that you're looking at right now. So, I mean, I don't think that they're going to trade Philip Forsberg and the team is going to guarantee him X number of dollars if another contract isn't worked out.
The biggest answer to that I have to that, desperation. I will never underestimate the desperation of certain NHL franchises. The Toronto Maple Leafs are desperate for postseason success. The Edmonton Oilers are desperate for postseason success. And if they can get a Philip Forsberg to put on that second or maybe even third line, I think they'd be willing to overpay if it meant hoisting a Stanley Cup. Like we saw with the Rams. Now, this is obviously a different situation, but the Rams traded assets for a rental in Von Miller. They're not bringing Von Miller back next year.
No.
Way too much money to account for. They're already in salary cap hell. They said, screw it, we're going to take it anyway. They traded for Von Miller. They won a Super Bowl. Les Snead is wearing a shirt at the Super Bowl parade saying, bleep them picks. And
there you go.
There's teams in the NHL that I feel like are in that mode right now.
But you'll shift back to NFL draft mindset. I don't subscribe to that belief because I understand that's how the Los Angeles Rams did it, that they just threw all of their picks out the window in order to win a Super Bowl, and it worked. Yeah. But I believe in the NFL draft. I think that the NFL draft is important. And I think for the next few years, maybe 2-3 years down the line, when all of the Rams players that they acquired with those picks are old or they're gone or they're retired, whatever it may be, I mean, the Rams aren't going to be very good because they have no way of building up their team because they have no picks.
They didn't prepare for tomorrow.
No, they did not.
Party for today.
And they prepared for today, and that's fine. They sold their soul for a Super Bowl, and that's what they got. And for the next 5 to 10 years, if they're god-awful, they got a Super Bowl. So, I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's how I felt with LSU, for example.
He went all in
hot
for a
garbage
season.
for the past 2 years, but you know what? We had 2019, and I'm fine with that. I'm good with that, but I don't necessarily subscribe to the F them picks mentality because I think that in the NHL drafts, in the NFL drafts alike, that's how you groom talent. That's how you build a championship team because you don't have to pay those players. You draft those players. You don't have to pay free agents. Another texter texts in and says, if Philip Forsberg is not a premier forward, why is he going to be worth so much at the trade deadline? It's not like Forsberg isn't a bad player. Forsberg is a great player. Forsberg is your leading scorer in the Nashville Predators.
Playing at his best of his career
Playing
right now.
at the best of his career. It's not the question of whether Philip Forsberg is a solid forward or not. It's just, can you dish out that much money for that much time? Because you're going to have to give him, he's going to want a long-term contract from the Predators. And if not, he's going to want to be traded. So, no, he's not a premier forward in the league just because he's your forward. He's a solid 2 guy. I mean, he can fit into a lot of teams and probably be that missing piece and that missing depth piece that a lot of, like you said, the Toronto Maple Leafs need in order to make their run for the cup. So he's a great 2. He's a great piece, and he's a great player. But he's just not your premier forward. Or he is your premier forward, but he's not the premier forward in the NHL.
Which teams would overpay for. And that's the thing. The market will demand him to be overpaid a little bit, even though he might not replicate the rate in which he's scoring goals this year. He's still a really good goal scorer. And that's something that some teams will overpay for because, like Corey Curtis said, 30 goal scorers don't grow on trees. And this is something that Philip Forsberg can do. It's something that teams like the Edmonton Oilers need more of. And if the price tag's a little more than what a lot of teams are going to pay him, that's what they're going to do. You are what teams are willing to pay you. And I think teams are willing to pay the type of money that we're discussing for Forsberg for Philip Forsberg.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Chad Withrow at Kick360 joins us coming up next. Stillman and Company, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Take us wherever you may go.
There are 2 guys on my untouchable list.
Tune us in anywhere, anytime.
Every team's got those. That's my point.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now, and they have same-day delivery. Use Social Furniture's financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. Social Furniture's President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Visit Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social. Social Furniture is a proud supporter of your Nashville Predators.
To understand what makes Genesis Diamonds so different than other jewelry stores, you have to go back over 40 years to the diamond cutting capital of Tel Aviv, Israel. That's where Genesis owner Boaz Ramon grew up, in the center of the diamond universe. His connections with the best diamond cutters allowed him special access, giving rise to a thriving wholesale business here in the United States. Then, after a few years, this wholesaler changed the game and started selling these precious diamonds direct to the public at the same prices he had sold to the jewelry stores. The no middleman concept became an instant success. Today, Genesis Diamonds provides that extraordinary value to people right here in Middle Tennessee, leading the industry with the highest quality diamonds that still come straight from the best cutters, offered at the guaranteed best price of any jewelry store in America. Genesis Diamonds, a truly revolutionary concept with a unique history rooted in quality, committed to excellence, and always focused on value. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Signs First is the official sign company for 1025 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Hey, it's Chase McKay, Program Director at 1025 The Game, and when our crew is out, we want to look our best. Thankfully, we have Authentically American taking care of all of our apparel. The way your team looks is everything. Enhance your company's image with the help of veteran-owned and operated Authentically American. For you parents out there, they'll take care of your kids' team apparel too. It's Authentically American, and yep, It's made in America. Check them out at authenticallyamerican.us. Mention the game and they'll handle the setup and artwork free of charge. That's authenticallyamerican.us.
President's Day is here, and that means huge savings at Electronic Express. You'll find great deals in every department, including all 4K TVs, laptops, tablets, speakers, headphones, mattresses, and more. Don't forget, we have up to 50% off all your appliance needs, in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Shop the President's Day sales event at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe of Darren, Donick, and Chase. I started my radio career as an intern right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game. Now we're looking for our next great batch of interns. You think that's you? Send your resume to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply today.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUZ HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. We are live from the Hillside Medical Game Studio. Outkick 360's Chad Withrow joins us now. Now, Chad, we haven't gotten to speak since last Friday, but there was a little bit of drama that went down on Aaron Rodgers' Instagram earlier this week. And this entire week, it's just been drama after drama after drama surrounding Aaron Rodgers, which feels like the same stuff, different day. We heard from Diana Rossini yesterday saying he's going to make his decision up soon. We heard today Aaron Rodgers wants big money wherever he lands. I am so sick and tired of hearing about the Aaron Rodgers drama and Aaron Rodgers creating headlines for himself because it just seems like he can't help himself.
Aaron Rodgers, follow me here, Caroline, and tell me if you agree.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers is Lane Kiffin. They are both addicted to the drama.
It's a fair point.
They love it. And I don't think that they're overly dramatic. I think the deal with them, both these guys, they kind of strike me as a little bit of the same guy. They're both super intelligent, and I think they're both a little bit disconnected from reality at times, and they're also disconnected from emotion. So when people get worked up over stuff like, a football game or recruiting or whatever it may be, I think they have a hard time understanding people getting worked up over certain things, and they like to play to those emotions. So Lane Kiffin posting a photo with, the tell sign on a plane going to New Orleans or acting like he's taking another job or doing this or that, that's going to get the Ole Miss people worked up. And Kiffin loves it. And I think Aaron Rodgers is exactly the same. I think he loves getting a rise out of people. And I think the whole, vaccination versus inoculation thing and the huge response to all that and the way people reacted, I think that just lit up this fire inside of Aaron Rodgers where he realized, man, I really kind of like this. I'm going to do more things to poke the bear because I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I just think that's kind of who he is now, and he's addicted to not drama for himself, but causing drama with everyone else.
And I think that's exactly what he said, whatever he said. He was talking to Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee show, said, I didn't think about the post. It was just gratitude. Give me a break. You have 4 million followers on Instagram. You know that whatever you put on there, whether it's a long post of quote-unquote gratitude, if that's what you want to call it, or if it's an ad for foot cream, you know that there's going to be talk surrounding it. So don't give me the whole shtick of, I didn't think anything about it, because Aaron Rodgers was out of the headlines for 15 minutes seemingly, and he had to get back in it, and that's exactly what that Instagram post meant to me.
He's addicted to it. I'm telling you, I think that he just loves people talking about him. He loves stirring the pot and getting a rise out of people. Now, I will say, at least on the Pat McAfee show, he did say, this is about gratitude, and that's all it is. Kyler Murray stripped all the Arizona Cardinal stuff off his social media and then put some weird post about how, he's not about all of that drama and everything else, and never explained why he took down everything with the Arizona Cardinals. So at least, even if we got a bad explanation we got some explanation from Aaron Rodgers on what he was doing.
That is a fair point. And as much as it just bugs me to no end that every conversation is about Aaron Rodgers and he likes it that way, I still believe that there is no bigger storyline in this NFL offseason other than where Aaron Rodgers is going to go and when his decision is going to be made.
Yeah, I think the biggest, we're going to have a lot to talk about this offseason with the quarterbacks, but to me the biggest, Debbie Downer this offseason will be Aaron Rodgers stays put, Russell Wilson stays put, Tom Brady stays retired, Deshaun Watson, stays put, and there's no resolution of everything going on with him, because that really is, the intrigue right now are all these big-time quarterbacks and what's going to happen. And there is a chance that, everyone stays where they are, and the biggest quarterback news this offseason is, Carson Wentz and what the Colts do with him. Or Jimmy Garoppolo and where he ends up. And that's just kind of boring to me, quite frankly, if that's all there is in the end, and that may very well be the case.
It very well may be the case, but I can't believe that all of those things are going to be true. That Aaron Rodgers stays put, and Russell Wilson stays put, and Tom Brady stays retired. I feel like there at least has to be a little bit of shakeup. And I think that if I'm going to guess today here on February 25th which one of those things it's going to be, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be the shakeup. And I fully believe that wherever he goes, I think most likely Denver, Indianapolis is also another potential buyer. You mentioned Carson Wentz and what his future is in Indianapolis. If the Indianapolis Colts do decide to part with Carson Wentz, and if they give Aaron Rodgers an attractive offer, I think the Indianapolis Colts instantly become Super Bowl contenders. And I think that instantly makes the Titans' window for the Super Bowl get incredibly small.
I think Aaron Rodgers going to Indy makes them immediately the favorite in the AFC South. I mean, it's not a good thing for the Titans.
Easy.
I think they're the favorite to win the division. Right now, the way things currently sit, it's, to me, clearly the Titans' division again next year. But if it's the Colts that land Aaron Rodgers, if something happens there, yeah, I think Indianapolis is the favorite in the South. It'd be interesting to see what he could do in Denver if that was that. But I mean, you're right, Caroline. I think that the top two places I was looking at, I think CBS Sports had a list of the best destinations for Aaron Rodgers if he's not a Packer. And it was number 1, Denver, number 2, Indianapolis. I want to see the Titans were 5th on that list of possible destinations. But, yeah, I mean, I think, look, Aaron Rodgers, 2-time defending MVP, wherever he goes, they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. And with the running attack with Jonathan Taylor in Indy and how close they were to the playoffs this year, if he goes there, it pushes them over the top, and they're suddenly a contender to win it all, but the favorite to win the AFC South. So that would be very bad news for the Titans.
Talking to Chad Withrow, Outkick 360. Chad Withrow brought to you by Apple Collision Centers, online at applecollisioncenters.com. Chad, I'm with you that wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, they're instantly a Super Bowl contender, if not the Super Bowl favorite. Yet, Aaron Rodgers hasn't had a great track record of winning in the playoffs. I mean, it's like he's the MVP of losing the NFC Championship. So while I do believe that wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, that team is instantly going to be in contention for the Super Bowl, it's not like his history necessarily proves that that should and will be the case.
Yeah, and I brought this up with Joe Burrow. I mean, it's easy to look right now and say, okay, Joe Burrow's in year 2 with Cincinnati. They'll be back. He's going to win a Super Bowl before all said and done. And while I think that's going to happen, that's certainly not a given to happen. Dan Marino got to 1 Super Bowl either his rookie or second year, never went back, never won one, never even got back to a Super Bowl. Brett Favre won 1 Super Bowl. Drew Brees won 1 Super Bowl. I mean, there's plenty of examples of Hall of Fame quarterbacks who had a hard time winning it or even getting to a Super Bowl. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't been to the Super Bowl since that 2010 season where he won it pretty early on as a starter under Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. So, yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, for all of his greatness, has not been a very successful playoff quarterback. And I think that kind of hangs on. I think Brett Favre didn't get enough blame for only winning 1 Super Bowl with some of those great Packers teams. And I think at the end of Aaron Rodgers' career, if he only has the 1 Super Bowl ring, I think that's a mark against him. Peyton Manning was able to go to Denver and get to 2 Super Bowls and win one of them. That's a big part of his legacy. even if he was old and injured and his neck didn't work in that last Super Bowl and he won it with defense, that's still a big part of the Peyton Manning legacy. I think if Aaron Rodgers finishes his career with only one Super Bowl ring, that's going to be a big part of his.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad Withrow with us, Outkick 360. Chad, do you think that Russell Wilson is staying in Seattle? That's another big name surrounding the NFL quarterback carousel. Because you said, it could be very likely that all of these quarterbacks stay put. In my opinion, Russell Wilson's the most likely one to stay put. And I don't know why I think that.
Well, and Russell Wilson, does the Kyler Murray deal where he takes the picture of him
out of his
in a
Twitter
Seahawks
bio,
uniform, out of his Twitter bio, and then that lights the sports world on fire when that happens. And again, he knows exactly what he's doing. Russell Wilson's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He seems, more, at least from what he said publicly, he seems more happy with the situation in Seattle than, let's say, Kyler Murray, who's been pretty quiet. I know his owner spoke recently. But Aaron Rodgers, who's been very, flippant about everything also. So, I mean, look, if I had to bet right now, I think Russell Wilson stays in Seattle. But if he is unhappy and if Seattle's willing to make a move, suddenly there's another big-time quarterback that's out there. And again, Deshaun Watson, the Texans want to get rid of him. They don't want to have to sit there with that cap hit again where he's not going to play this year. So they are going to be compelled to make a move. So where does he go? Is there going to be a suspension? Is he going to reach a settlement? Is there going to be a criminal case? Also, big questions surrounding him. And look, when he's playing, he's a top 5 to 10 quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one big X factor in this season is what is the future of Deshaun Watson. And I think another X factor as well is Jimmy Garoppolo. Because I see so many teams that are in need of a quarterback or may not necessarily be in the quarterback market, but if there's one that's available that's better than the option that they have now. I mean, you look at, for example, in Miami. If Deshaun Watson doesn't work out in Miami, because I think that's personally the most likely landing spot for Deshaun Watson, there are so many teams that could insert Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think that's another big X factor as well, is Jimmy Garoppolo is on the market. There are a lot of teams that could bring him in immediately. And I've heard so much national discussion about the Indianapolis Colts are just Jimmy Garoppolo away from the Super Bowl. The Washington Commanders, which feels kind of weird to say, the Washington Commanders could be instant contenders with Jimmy Garoppolo. Am I crazy in thinking that there is no team in the NFL that is just a Jimmy Garoppolo away from the Super Bowl?
No. Jimmy Garoppolo. So here's who Jimmy Garoppolo is. Jimmy Garoppolo is Matt Hasselbeck when he was with the Titans. He is a solid quarterback that can bridge the gap until you get your franchise quarterback for a team. Or, to give you another Titans example, he is Kerry Collins in 2008 for the Titans. He is a guy who can plug along and have a very good season with a great supporting cast and a great defense and do some big things while not being that great of a quarterback. Kerry Collins, a good example. Titans, the 13-3, number 1 seed in the AFC in 2008. They lose in their first playoff game. But to me, that's kind of Jimmy Garoppolo's level at this point. He's not some transcendent guy who comes in and changes the fate of your organization. He is a good quarterback that can come in and right the ship. And, if you're a playoff contender, he can maybe get you the playoffs. If you're a great team, maybe he can do bigger things than that. But he's not going to change the fortune of your team in some dramatic way, in a good way. That's just who Jimmy Garoppolo is. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I agree with you, Caroline. He's not someone that's going to come in and push some team over the edge to go win a Super Bowl.
I'm sick and tired of the Jimmy G love. Chad Withrow with us. We'll hang with him on the other side. We'll get into a little bit of NFL draft, a little bit of college hoops. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Got to tell you guys about my friends at Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller extended their lower 2021 pricing from last year all through last month in January to help customers tackle necessary replacements. Well, there was so much demand that they are now extending this special pricing for one more month. So this is going to be the lowest pricing expected all year. So you've noticed all the inventory shortages and the empty shelves, and now there are shortages on equipment and products for your home. HVAC systems, tankless water heaters, and generators are going to be extremely limited in 2022. So because of the supply issues and rising costs of parts, manufacturers manufacturers are rapidly increasing the price of this equipment. So if you need a replacement, call my friends at Hiller today, and do not wait until you're out of options. And again, this is done at the end of the month, so you got to get in now. Hiller's work is backed by the Happy You'll Be or Services Free guarantee, and you can learn more at happyhiller.com. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Volunteers, the Vanderbilt Commodores. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Every Friday at 8:30 on Robbie and Rex Show, we talk with the legend Terry Chris about all things Nashville Predators, presented by Copper Branch on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Nothing makes one feel better than the ability to give to someone in need. You have the power to give the most important gift of all, the gift of life, with a donation of your blood. Supplies are desperately low in our area, and your help is needed. Blood Assurance is a nonprofit community blood center that supplies our Middle Tennessee area hospitals. Please find it in your heart to donate. Be someone's hero today. Go to bloodassurance.org to find a location or blood drive near you. That's bloodassurance.org. Give blood, give local, save lives with Blood Assurance.
Need cash for that home improvement or want to finally be credit card debt free? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto can do it for you, whether you have a VA loan or a conventional loan. They're helping local homeowners convert their home equity into cash with zero closing costs. Willie Donick here. Listen, your home value is up. Let Loan Pronto tap that equity and get you the cash you need. Pay off high interest loans. Start that home remodeling project. Veteran homeowners are really loving this because with a VA loan, you can tap 100% of your home's equity. That's a ton of cash. Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They are doing loans with APRs in the twos. And if you call now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now to see what your options are. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
This is Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers. We understand that no one likes to deal with auto body repair and the inconvenience it becomes in your day-to-day life. I want to personally invite you to stop by and let our experienced staff see how we can help you make your vehicle look good as new. Apple Collision Center has 3 convenient locations: Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin, ready to serve you. Come by and see us or visit us online at applecollisioncenters.com.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Stillman and Company. Chad Withrow, Outkick 360, joins us now. Chad Withrow, brought to you by Apple Collision Centers, online at applecollisioncenters.com. Chad, we talked a good bit of NFL draft yesterday, both with Trevor Maddich and Teron Davenport. Teron Davenport said, hey, you gotta get a tight end in free agency for the Titans and then draft everything else. But my biggest concern was Titans only have 5 draft picks, and they have several holes in their roster that they need to fill pretty immediately. And it's not like those picks that you are grabbing in the 5th and 6th round are going to necessarily be able to be players that you can count on to get immediately. But I also see some of the talent in the first round. I look at Jameson Williams. I look at Chris Olave, 2 wide receivers that could come in and help the Titans right now. So I kind of struggle with what's the best move for the Titans at this point. If those wide receivers are available at 26, do you take them, or do you pick up the extra draft picks later in the draft, trade back out of the first round, and pick up some 2nd and 3rd round picks later on? I can't decide what I think would be the best move for the Titans.
I think if Olave or Jameson Williams is there at 26, I think you draft one of those guys. I mean, I think, look, the value, and we've seen this a lot in recent drafts, the value is with the wide receiver position, and the depth is with wide receivers. So you can look at that one of 2 ways. You can say, okay, well, if it's great depth, trade back, get a wide receiver. It may not be one of those guys, but you're still going to get a good wide receiver, in the 2nd round. I think Jameson Williams is sort of the Jeffrey Simmons pick. You know, he's not going to be ready right away because of the injury. He may be a little slower coming along in his rookie year, but he's going to play at some point, and he is a possible difference maker to pair with A.J. Brown at receiver. So I think if those guys are there at receiver at 26, you go that direction. And I agree with Teron on tight ends. There's some really good tight ends available in free agency. David Njoku is one I like in Cleveland. There's some real quality in what you can get at tight end, and that's an immediate help. Mm-hmm. You're not bringing them along slowly. They've played in the league. You can plug and play those guys. So I do like that tight end and free agency option.
Absolutely, tight end and free agency and there's some great free agent tight ends on the market right now. And I'm with you. I love Jameson Williams. And if you can get him at 26, that injury value pick at 26, I'm here for it all day. But there's another position group that isn't necessarily a very sexy position group that the Titans need to address right now, and that's offensive line. And this is an incredibly robust offensive line draft. But I look at, and we were talking to Ron about this yesterday, about why can the Titans not utilize the deep ball? Is that a wide receiver issue? Is that an offensive line issue? Or is that a Ryan Tannehill issue? And I think it might be a little bit of a mix of all three of them. I just don't know. If in the NFL draft, it's not a sexy pick, but do you need to address offensive line as well in such a deep offensive line draft?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to. Center's going to be a position. Center's going to be a position they're going to have to address soon with the age of Ben Jones right now and where he is in his career. Right tackle continues to be an issue. It's been a problem for John Robinson, from Isaiah Wilson, and now to Dylan Radins, who made no contribution this year, and now there's talk that, maybe he's a guard and he's not a tackle. Well, that's no bueno if that's the case. So, I mean, there's big issues there also. You do have a little PTSD of drafting a tackle, a right tackle especially, high in the draft if you're the Titans. I think so. But, yeah, I mean, that's a position they've got to start. You know, that has been a strength for this team in the past, but it's a position group they got to start looking at what the future of the Titans' offensive line is going to look like, and that's going to lead to some draft picks this go-around.
And I feel like the buzz for this NFL draft hasn't been as much as it has been in the past, and I think it's because there is no bona fide star quarterback in this draft. This isn't, and people like to call it a very, quote, weak quarterback draft, but I kind of refuse to believe that, because you look back at the 2017 NFL draft. That was a quote-unquote weak NFL draft, and that Mitch Trubisky was really going to be the star coming out of that draft, and that was when Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were drafted. In your opinion, who do you think could be the hidden gem in the rough in terms of quarterbacks in this NFL draft?
I mean, look, I don't think this guy is hidden because he was a finalist for the Heisman, but I think Kenny Pickett is going to be the best quarterback in this draft. And I think Kenny Pickett has a chance to be a really, really good franchise quarterback for someone if I had to pick right now. And I think you're right, Caroline. I think every time we assume, there's no one worthy of a high first-round pick, or, maybe the first quarterback's not taken until the 20s or the low teens of this draft, someone's going to surprise. I mean, I've seen mocks where, Pittsburgh, I saw one was trading up to get Malik Willis out of Liberty. So whether it's Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, you go down the list. Carson Strong, the kid from Nevada, someone is going to pop in this draft. So I refuse to believe that there's just no quarterbacks in this draft. Now, you're also spot on in that we don't care as much about the NFL draft right now because there's not that star power at the quarterback position. We're going to care more about it. Next week's the Combine. We'll start talking a lot more about it. But when, a possible defensive tackle is your number one overall pick, the defensive lineman and Kayvon Thibodeau, and we're talking about that just doesn't have the same mass appeal as a quarterback and, arguing over who should go number one between two or three guys.
Kind of, Chad Withrow's with us, Outkick 360, transitioning a little bit to some college hoops because there's a big game in Knoxville tomorrow. Auburn and Bruce Pearl makes his return to Thompson Bowling. Chad, do you think this is the biggest game of Tennessee's season so far?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. The Kentucky game in Knoxville was certainly that, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. It's a big one. It's crazy, too. Auburn's won 6 straight against Tennessee, and if you look at what those wins have done to Tennessee, I mean, they held Tennessee out of a share of a regular season SEC title. They held them out of an outright SEC title in the SEC championship game in Nashville a few years ago. They possibly knocked them out of the NCAA tournament by beating them a few years ago. That was before COVID, where there was no tournament. It's been some detrimental losses to Tennessee. Now, whoever loses this game tomorrow, it's not going to, greatly affect their seed or their standing this season. So it's fun to watch games like that, knowing both are going to be right now, high seeds in the NCAA tournament. But it's big for Tennessee. I mean, if they can win this game, they're one game behind Auburn at that point for the lead in the SEC. They've got the head-to-head win over Bruce Pearl. And I think there's, something to Rick Barnes and Bruce Pearl and Tennessee fans who still want Bruce Pearl as the coach, and Bruce Pearl owning Rick Barnes right now with that 6 straight games. So I think that's a big part of this too, regardless of if anyone wants to admit that or not. That's certainly a part of this matchup with these two teams. I just think Tennessee is in a tough spot because of Kessler and Jabari Smith and Tennessee's rotation of bigs right now not getting the job done. John Fulkerson not getting the job done most of this season. They're going to need a big effort from him like he had against Arizona in the win or against Kentucky. He's going to have to show up and be big on both ends of the floor if Tennessee's going to have a chance in this game, because I just don't see them matching up well with Kessler or Jabari Smith.
Said there are some Tennessee fans out there who still want Bruce Pearl to be the coach. You're a Tennessee fan, Chad. Do you want Bruce Pearl to be the head coach?
Well, look, I would love to live in an alternate reality, Caroline, where Bruce Pearl, never got a show cause for a damn barbecue by the NCAA, which is beyond ridiculous to say. Will Wade is allowed to coach after being recorded making cash offers to guys. And Bruce Pearl, because he had a barbecue, not that it's illegal to have a barbecue, but because he had it a week early in the recruiting period and then lied about it, got a show cause where he was not allowed to coach in college basketball for a number of years. Tennessee got hosed in that deal. Bruce Pearl got hosed. I would like to see how many Final Fours Bruce Pearl would have gotten Tennessee to if he never left. And there wasn't, Conzo Martin, Donnie Tyndall, and then eventually Rick Barnes. Rick Barnes done a great job. I'm very happy with Rick Barnes as Tennessee's coach. But, yeah, I mean, it's fun to fantasize about that alternate reality where Bruce Pearl has Tennessee to their first Final Four at some point in those intervening years, which I think would have happened.
You mentioned Will Wade, and if there's one thing that I've learned in my tenure in Louisiana, it's that they don't mind turning a blind eye to rule breaking every now and again. But I agree with you. Rick Barnes has done a fine job at Tennessee, but I think one thing that does concern me, and I think a lot of Tennessee fans alike, is his ability to win in March. And I think we've seen it throughout this season as Tennessee struggled to get some wins on the road. Is that something that's a Rick Barnes issue? Does that concern you moving forward in this team's ability to win, not just on the road in the regular season, but you're going to be on the road in March as well?
Well, look, I mean, his NCAA tournament track record is not good. I mean, everyone knows that. That's got to be a concern. And Tennessee, look, Bruce Pearl said they're a Final Four caliber team. I agree with him. I mean, if they play like they have the last few weeks, with the exception of that Arkansas game, I mean, when they're shooting the way they can from the outside, when they're moving the ball the way they can, they play defense really well every game. They are a team that's going to win some games in the NCAA tournament. But if they come out and score 48 points and can't throw it in the ocean and they stand on offense and try to go one-on-one like they did against Arkansas, they're going to get bounced by Toledo in the first round of the tournament, and that's more in line with Rick Barnes' history. In terms of not winning enough on the road, that's a college basketball issue. Outside of 3 or 4 teams, and we're talking about number 1 seeds, no one's consistently winning in tough environments against quality teams. Tennessee's no different. They've handled business on the road against teams they should beat, and that's good enough. When you're undefeated at home like Tennessee is, and you're beating all the teams on the road and not having huge slip-ups in conference in away games, I think that's really good, because college basketball creates the biggest home field advantage in all of sports. So I just think that's an issue with, every team in college basketball. I'm not as concerned about that, but yeah, I'd be lying if I said, I wasn't concerned about Rick Barnes' track record in the NCAA tournament, which has been bad.
Last one for you. Chad Withrow, Outkick 360 is with us. I've had so much fun watching Zakai Ziegler play. And he has been such an underestimated X factor for this team. What do you expect to see from him moving forward into the postseason, and especially going to this tough game against Auburn?
Well, this is why people love Rick Barnes, right? I mean, Grant Williams was a chubby kid who was going to go to Harvard, I think, in the Ivy League, and had no big major Power 5 offers until Rick Barnes brought him in and turned him into SEC Player of the Year, and now a guy who's a really good NBA player. Zakai Ziegler, the same thing. He didn't have any offers of note. He goes to the Peach Jam AAU tournament. Rick Barnes and his staff spot him. They talk to him. They do some investigation, and they offer him. And he comes in, virtually, comes to Knoxville and brings his mom with him and signs up and has no other offers, and he's a star. I mean, this is a guy this is what NIL was made for on the good end to me. A guy who's overlooked, gets there, becomes a campus legend. Fan base loves him. He's going to make a good amount of money. I mean, I know for a fact he's making six figures right now in NIL. He wasn't going to make six figures in NIL in recruiting. No one cared. But he got there, he's produced, and he's earned it. And I think that's great for Zakai Ziegler. And he's going to be a Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield type legend by the time he leaves, for every reason you said, Caroline, because we love an underdog. He's got such fight. He's got such poise. I'm in love with the Zakai Ziegler story, and I can't wait to see his improvement as he goes along in his career. But he is an absolute spark plug for this Tennessee team whenever he comes into the game.
Yeah, he is just so fun to watch. Chad Withrow, Outkick 360. Chad, I appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
All right, thanks, Caroline. Great talking to you.
Good to talk to you, too. Chad Withrow, Outkick 360, joining us as he does every Friday at 5 o'clock. Coming up next, I got a quick thought on the MLB lockout because it seems like time is dwindling down. We may see opening day be a thing of the past. I'll get into that coming up next. Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hi, I'm UC Saros. And this is Smashville.
Now here's a try off to the side. What a stop made by UC Saros there.
Unreal. You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
This is Chef John from Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville. Inviting you to come join us for breakfast and lunch. We are offering some exciting new menu items. For breakfast, we have a smoked prime rib hash. Comes with a sunny side up egg, hominy, caramelized onions. It's a great start to your day. We are featuring a sourdough pancake made with a sourdough bread starter. It's a fun spin on the classic buttermilk pancake. As always, Kitchen Notes is serving biscuits all day. Come join us and create a memorable experience here at the Omni Hotel. Food is all about memories for us. We'd like you to start a new memory here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Hotel.
Breakfast at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Join us in Smashville to experience hard hits, big goals, and golden moments. Your Nashville Predators are in action at Bridgestone Arena, and now is the time to get your tickets. Introducing the Paint the Town Preds Pack, complete with 3 games, a $25 Yeehaw Brewing Company gift card, 2022 Stanley Cup playoff priority, and more. Visit NashvillePredators.com/paint to secure your pack. These are the games you don't want to miss as the Preds make their push to the playoffs. Join us in Painting the Town Preds and secure your ticket package today. NashvillePredators.com/paint.
Men, what if I told you that now you're able to get testosterone replacement therapy in the comfort of your own home? No more weekly trips to the doctor's office. We come to you 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Be seen by a licensed medical professional in the privacy and comfort of your own home or office. You decide. Schedule your appointment today at CoolSpringsMDformen.com.
This view was worth a hike.
Right? And it's a good way to stay on top of my health.
Yes, I'm Cologuard, a prescription colon cancer screening option for people 45 plus at average risk. Have you screened for colon cancer?
Not yet.
Don't wait. It's more treatable when caught in early stages.
Tell me more.
Cologuard is non-invasive and it's used at home. It detects altered DNA in your stool to find 92% of colon cancers.
92%?
Yep, even those in early stages.
This was seen in a clinical study with patients 50 and older. Any positive result should be followed by a diagnostic colonoscopy. False positive and negative results may occur. Cologuard is not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. Do not use if you have had adenomas, have inflammatory bowel disease and certain hereditary syndromes, or a personal or family history of colon cancer.
Most insured patients pay $0. Ask your provider or an online prescriber if Cologuard is right for you. Or visit Cologuard.com.
I'm in.
Mid-State Sports League spring registration is now open. With 7 different sports to choose from, there is something for every player. Join Nashville's largest sports leagues and register as a free agent or bring your own team. Spring registration is now open for softball, sand volleyball, soccer, kickball, flag football, and basketball. For a full list of adult and youth leagues, check out midstatesports.com. That's midstatesports.com. It's no debate. Play Mid-State.
Every Wednesday, it's me, Jared Stillman, against Joe Rexroad for Jared versus Joe. Brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Visit ParmanTractor.com, your Middle Tennessee link belt and Takauchi dealer.
Hey Nashville, this is Gary Bettman. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 1025, The Game.
Stillman and Company. You can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Now, I see your Predators text, I see your Titans text, and I do want to get to that in just a moment. But before we do that, I have a thought on the MLB lockout. And I want to preface this take by saying I completely understand that this is not a baseball town. I completely understand that there is no MLB team here in Nashville, and it's not necessarily a hot button topic because, to be completely honest with you, I think that there are very few cities in this country in which the MLB is a hot button topic. But I think that's my entire point here. So the MLB currently in a lockout, and Monday is the deadline for owners and for the MLBPA players to make a decision on moving forward. And there's a laundry list of things that the owners and the players have yet to agree on, and they keep bringing new things up. I think they met on Wednesday, and a new point that they had brought up was minimum league salary. And the owners want it to be $650,000 plus bonuses. The players want it to be $710,000, period. There's a lot of deliberation going on between the players and the owners. It's moving at a glacial pace, and it has been since the lockout started. There are new things that come up every day, and the owners and the players just can't seem to agree on anything. So my anticipation for Monday is looking pretty bleak because Monday is the 4-week mark before opening day. And the league has said for health concerns, you need at least 4 weeks of spring training before you can start the season. So I fully anticipate for the league to continue to be locked out past opening day, past Monday, delaying opening day. And the league has said that they will cancel those games. The players will not get compensated for those games. And I know that there's been some discussion about, well, the players will play those games. They'll play double headers to make up for the compensation, to make up for the season, whatever it may be. However they didn't move forward with that, I guess we'll see fit, and I guess we'll see how it happens on Monday. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, nobody cares about the MLB anyway, so it doesn't really matter if games are canceled. It's probably better for the sport. It's probably better. Don't even waste your time with these games. The season is long anyway. You got plenty of games to make up. But I think that's a really lopsided view of looking at this situation because it's not just a game. And I understand it's a long season, and a game may seem insignificant. But I think that a canceled game under these circumstances, in which the billionaire owners and the multimillionaire players can't seem to come to an agreement and can't seem to get their stuff together in order to start the season on time, is such a terrible look for a league whose popularity is dwindling by the day. I'm a diehard baseball fan. I grew up in a diehard baseball town. I'll love it regardless. But in my age group, I think that I'm the minority. I think that I am the exception and not the rule. Because the MLB has done nothing to appeal to young fans. The MLB has done nothing to grow the game. The MLB fancies itself as being America's pastime, as being this elitist and traditional sport, and that it will not tarnish its reputation of Major League Baseball and entertaining any new updates or trying to appeal to a younger fan base. And postponing the beginning of the season because these multi-millionaire, billionaire owner and players can't seem to agree about money is the absolute worst look, because it's the message that, hey, we don't necessarily care about our fans. We don't necessarily care about the pomp and circumstance and the camaraderie surrounding opening day. We don't care if we have to cancel games because we just can't seem to get along about anything. We don't care about that because we care about our money more than we care about the fans and their experience and these games. So I hear people saying, well, it doesn't matter that they don't play these games. People don't watch them anyways. That's an incredibly short-sighted way of looking at it, because it's not just games that are being canceled. It's a game here and there, which seems rather insignificant in the scheme of an entire baseball season that spans half the year. It's the message, and it's the principle that players and owners are setting. Ourselves. The owners are prioritizing themselves over because we care about our money more. That is such a terrible look for a league that's done nothing to try and grow itself. You look at the NFL, for example. The NFL has games on Nickelodeon because they want to get fans that are young. They want to appeal to kids so kids grow up and they love the NFL and they see games with SpongeBob and whatever Nickelodeon characters there are on there, because the NFL wants to grow the game and the NFL wants to appeal to a wide fan base. And the NFL knows that if we get them while they're young, we'll keep them all the way through their lifetime. And that's how you maintain a league. That's how you stay relevant, is whenever you appeal to a broad fan base, whenever you stay up with the times, whenever you embrace whatever is new and whatever is trendy and whatever is the big thing for kids and adults alike. It's not how you grow a game, is being elitist and not wanting to change with the times and basically kind of sending a message to your fan base that we matter more than you do, that our money matters more than your investment in this team. And it's a terrible look for baseball. And if baseball wants to be America's pastime, I really fear that in the near future, baseball will be just a pastime if they don't continue to adapt to the future. I understand the MLB isn't necessarily a hot button topic in Nashville, but I think it's a very, very scary precedent that the MLB is facing right now. They can get over their issues and they can be fan forward, or they continue to be up their own butts and worry about their own money and their own dollars. And I fear that it'll be just that, a pastime. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought on that. Chase McCabe will join me coming up next. We'll make our betting picks for the weekend with Caroline's. We'll get into that coming up next. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
I love Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey because it goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There is no better way to ignite the night than to do it with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Again, it's a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and everybody knows how great Fireball Whiskey is. We've got a big hockey game to be celebrating. It's going to be outdoors. It's going to be a little chilly, but you're going to have to warm it up with Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Ignite the night. Please be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobus. Staying dry, but also staying cold going into the weekend. Overnight lows in the upper 20s and mainly cloudy. Those clouds stick around for Saturday. Cool high temperatures in the middle 40s and a chance for some scattered rain showers well after sunset tomorrow.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the happy face truck today.
Looking for a big diamond? Genesis Diamonds introduces our Elite Collection. All new for 2020. These are large, rare diamonds in the top 1% of the world. 3 carat, 4 carat, 5 carat, up to 10 carat precious diamonds for the most discriminating buyers who appreciate quality. Genesis owners travel worldwide, tapping a vast network of diamond cutters, carefully hand-selecting each of these remarkable diamonds. We invite you to view this premium collection of GIA-certified diamonds, rounds, cushion cuts, emerald cuts, even fancy colored diamonds in size and quality never before seen here. And to showcase these exquisite stones, only Genesis has the finest handcrafted rings from all the world-class designers. If 2020 is the year you're upgrading her original diamond, or you just want to go big for the first time, no need to travel to New York or Los Angeles or Antwerp. Genesis Diamonds' elite collection of large, precious diamonds is here in Nashville. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Shop today at Social Furniture during their President's Day sale. You'll find everything for your home on sale now. They have same-day delivery for your convenience and pay nothing down today. Use Social Furniture financing plan and pay no interest for 1 full year. For a limited time, they have designer sofas, solid wood bedroom furniture, leather sofas, and sectionals in stock now. They can deliver any size mattress the same day during their President's Day sale going on now through President's Day. Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in West Nashville. Shop local. Shop social.
Hey everybody, Robbie Stanley here to tell you about my friends at Jasper's. Jasper's is a casual restaurant and bar located on West End Avenue, equipped with TVs, a game room available for private events, a grab-and-go market, and free parking. Yes, free parking. This neighborhood spot is Nashville's new go-to restaurant and bar. You can try their selection of elevated bar food ranging from appetizers to chicken sandwiches to flatbread pizzas and the famous smash burger, as well as any of their delicious cocktails. So visit my friends at Jasper's, located at 1918 West End Avenue, and tell them that Robbie sent you.
Inside knowledge on the Titans.
Todd Downey's got his notepad out right now, just writing things down.
Inside knowledge on the Predators.
They can go right into the forecheck, and boom, you get a beautiful goal from Colton Sissons.
And then there's a team in Knoxville.
How excited should Tennessee fans be by what they've seen from Josh Heupel in year one?
Wake up and hang out with Robbie and Rexroad. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company. Go to theGameNashville.com/deals to check out Nashville's best deals. Right now, there are deals for everything from half off to the Woodhouse Spa, half off dining at the Mainstay and Hard Rock Cafe, half off to Brooklyn Bowl, plus $50 free with a purchase of $100 in downtown dollars. Check out all of Nashville's best deals now at theGameNashville.com/deals. I feel very honored because a certain suit found some time in his day to talk some betting with me. Chase McCabe joins the program now. Appreciate you making time for us, Suit.
Absolutely. You know, I took the suit off. It's Friday casual. Got the Star Wars shirt on today. But anything for you, Caroline. You're sounding good today.
I appreciate you, Chase. Appreciate you for having me.
Not as much yelling on today's show, so that's good.
I wonder why. It's weird.
It's a little quieter.
It's weird. I'm not my blood pressure isn't very high. It's crazy how things happen like that, isn't it? Well, Chase, welcome to your very first edition of Caroline's.
Yes.
Get in on the action. Put the money on the mahogany. What's on tap on the sports books? It's time to break it all down with Caroline's. Here on Stillman and Company.
On ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Chase, you are our guest. If you have a betting pick ready for the people, please, by all means.
Yeah, you know, I was actually looking at these earlier of what I wanted to do tonight, and I'm going to go to the association with mine because I'm actually going to see this team play next Friday night in New York when they play the Nets. But
Fun.
I like the Heat laying the 5.5 tonight against the Knicks, the other New York team. So I like the Heat as the road team.
Interesting.
Being the favorite. Robbie Stanley's Miami Heat.
Is that Robbie's team?
He loves the Miami Heat.
Why?
I don't know. I mean,
his fan base is all over the place.
I know, he's always liked them even before they had LeBron and Bosh join D-Wade. He loves D-Wade.
He's a hipster Heat fan.
Yeah, but
I liked them before Bosh.
Yeah, he loves D-Wade. So
okay, respect. Yeah. Well, we've got a pretty big game going down at Nissan Stadium this weekend.
Yes.
Tampa Bay Lightning coming into Smashville. Give me the Preds plus 1.5.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a bit of a barn burner. Now, if I'm going to have to take a money line, I'm going to take Tampa Bay on the money line. I mean, this team is so good. And if the Predators play how they played last night, and that's another question mark for me, is sometimes I just don't know which Predators team we're going to see. Is it going to be a Duchesne, Johansson, Forsberg shootout, just offensive fireworks? Or is it going to be where they can't get anything moving offensively like we saw last night against the Dallas Stars?
Yeah.
If they play last night like they did, if they play tomorrow like they did last night, they're going to get their butts handed to them. But I think that all things considered, all of the pomp and circumstance at Nissan Stadium, and the way that we saw them play against the Florida Panthers earlier this week, I think they're going to be able to keep it close against the defending Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, I like the total. I'm curious of if it's 6.5. It's 6.5, so I lean under on that. But because I feel like 4-2 somewhere in there is probably about what it is.
Two pretty good defensive teams.
Yeah, but there will be some scoring because you have obviously Forsberg that I think is playing with a chip on his shoulder right now, as he should. I feel like Duchesne's about to go through one of his streaks and get fired up again. But you have Vasilevsky and Saros in net, which is obviously going to be a tough task. But I think you're going to see a good show. One thing that you bring up last night, obviously, and not using this as an excuse, but when you have a younger team, when you have this team that we've been talking about that they have added some youngsters, they've never been through anything like that before. So it's kind of hard to get knocked off your routine and shake off the ceremony and stuff. I'm curious to see how they're going to handle tomorrow. John Hines, I know, talked about that a little bit today with the media of kind of changing up the routine because you're preparing for an outdoor game in the elements as opposed to skating in the arena. So I'm curious to see how the young players, especially that weren't in the Winter Classic a few years ago, how they handle this tomorrow.
Totally different environment, totally different mentality. It'll be interesting with some of these young guys. I'll take it back to the NBA as well.
Okay.
Pelicans at Suns. Give me the Suns minus 6.5. The Pelicans are an absolute dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, they're not very good.
They are not very good. All of the drama with Zion and his future, and then Kendrick Perkins goes on a rant on Twitter talking about how the Pelicans should leave New Orleans. Which is totally ill-informed and totally not correct. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, the Pelicans are not a very good team. The Suns are a very good team. And if we've seen anything from the Suns, they can put up big-time points. So give me the Suns to cover minus 6.5. Not really worth your money on the money line there, minus 270.
Yeah.
But I think the Suns are able to win big against New Orleans.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I mean, we've both gone with some favorites here, one on the road and one at home. But Phoenix is also good at home, so I think that's a safe bet.
And it's, the line there isn't very. I mean, it's not a lot of meat on that bone.
No. And what's interesting too is I don't know how much you like to play with teasers, but this is a teaser candidate for me of do a 4-point NBA teaser just to bring both lines down a little bit to possibly give you a little more value.
Yeah, exactly. Another game in state. Tennessee hosting Auburn. Now, I don't believe a spread has been released yet.
No, but earlier today on Darren Donick and Chase, Willie Donick put this together for Pick 6, and he used Ken Palm to basically come up with a line for it.
Oh,
and he had installed Tennessee as a 2.5-point favorite, which I laughed at.
What?
Yeah. I was like, okay, give me Auburn the points.
Yeah, give me Auburn all day long in that instance.
Because Bruce Pearl has had his way with Tennessee since he left, and I think Auburn goes in there and just takes it to Tennessee because they're a better team.
And that's one thing that I kind of struggle with is Tennessee looks like a different team at home than they look on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they played against Kentucky last week, was it last week, 2 weeks ago? Whatever that was, last week. I mean, that was a different team than we saw on the road at Arkansas.
Yeah.
So I kind of struggle with, let's say if Auburn's a 2.5-point favorite, I would probably take Auburn. But, Tennessee can play a little spooky at home. Thompson Bowling is going to be rowdy on Saturday. Bruce Pearl coming back. And there's going to be a crazy environment for that game. I take Auburn. I feel very confident about Auburn winning this game. I just don't know how close it's going to be because, Auburn's beatable.
They are.
That.
They are, but they have struggled a little bit as of late. Just kind of been hot and cold, I guess is the best way to put it. But I still think that's a team, and Bruce knows how to flip a switch when you get into March, that I think they're still a team that can make a run and a deep run.
For sure.
You know, they should be the favorite to win the SEC tournament, which sadly is not in Nashville this year. But they should be the favorite there. But Tennessee, I don't trust that team. I don't trust their coach.
They're so inconsistent.
Yeah, I don't trust Rick Barnes. I just don't.
And I think that one kind of underestimated part of this game is the fact that Auburn has a lot on the line here.
Yeah.
Kentucky is knocking on their door for that top seed in the SEC.
Sure.
And, I mean, Kentucky knows what they're playing with here, top seed in the SEC, better NCAA tournament seeding. So I think Auburn knows, like, this remaining schedule is so incredibly important. Auburn knows that Kentucky is probably going to get their business done. So does Auburn if they want to hold on to that number one spot. Auburn's had their slip-ups. Auburn had their kind of gimme mess-up games. Now Auburn knows, like, if we're going to hold on to that number one spot, that number one seed in the SEC tournament, and the SEC regular season title, which I don't necessarily know how much that means, but they want it. You know, They want to hold on to that spot. They know that Kentucky can probably win out the rest of their season, so Auburn knows to keep our spot, we got to do.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So it should be a fun game for sure.
Absolutely a very fun game. Another game I'm picking tonight. It's kind of a gimme. Kind of feels like it. Blues hosting Buffalo Sabres. Game in St. Louis tonight. Give me the Blues -1.5. I think that's a pretty good gimme. And if you want to loop it in, for a little bit better value here, I would say a little two-leg parlay with the Carolina Hurricanes against the spread, -1.5, hosting the Blue Jackets, and also the St. Louis Blues hosting the Buffalo Sabres -1.5. Puck line for both of those games is 6.
Yeah, I like that. Blue Jackets played last night and got a win. So I definitely like, and Carolina's really good.
Carolina's really good and at home, too.
Yeah, St. Louis at home, too, I
really
think.
good.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on the Line, anytime goal scorer. He's been hot. Patrick Line.
I do like that. That's a good one, Ian.
He's, I think, I want to say 13 goals in 11 games. Crazy hot.
Yeah, he's been good.
That is interesting.
See, that's where I would, if I'm giving advice for hockey, the goal scorers. Anytime goal scorers is definitely something to look at.
That is a good one.
Look at trends and then go from there.
That is going to do it for us today. Appreciate Chase McCabe, the suit.
Thank you very much.
Making an appearance on the program. We'll be back Monday morning at 2 o'clock. Preds Insiders with Robbie Stanley is coming up next.